Close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the mattress, the tension releasing from your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are about to embark on a journey not through space, but through time, to a world that existed for nearly 1,000 years and shaped a nation's soul. Tonight, you will enter feudal Japan, the land of the samurai. You will walk through mist-shrouded valleys where warriors trained before dawn. You will stand in castle courtyards where honor was valued more than life itself. You will witness the rise and fall of a warrior class that defined an entire civilization, that created a code so profound it still echoes through the centuries. But this is not a journey of excitement or adrenaline. This is a journey of quiet contemplation, of slow understanding, of gentle immersion. The samurai world was not only about war and battle, though there was that. Yes, but about discipline, ritual, beauty, the careful cultivation of the self, the acceptance of death, and the pursuit of perfection in every action, no matter how small. As you listen tonight, you may drift in and out of consciousness. That is perfect. That is the intention. These words are designed to carry you into sleep and through it, to accompany your rest like a gentle stream flowing beside you in the darkness. You need not remember everything. You need not stay awake to hear every sentence. Let the narrative wash over you like warm water, like the mist that rises from rice paddies at dawn, like the scent of cherry blossoms falling in spring. Tonight's journey spans 3 hours, but time will become fluid. 3 hours may feel like 3 minutes or 3 centuries. The samurai existed across nearly a millennium from the Heian period through the Meiji Restoration, from roughly 900 CE to 1876 CE. We will move through that vast sweep of time not in a rush, but slowly, contemplatively, pausing to notice details. The way morning light falls on a sword blade, the texture of silk armor cords, the taste of rice and pickled vegetables eaten before battle, the sound of wooden practice swords clacking in a training hall, the weight of responsibility on a young warrior's shoulders. The samurai were human beings, not myths, though myths grew around them. They felt fear and courage, love and duty, ambition and resignation. They were sons and fathers, husbands and brothers. They wrote poetry and arranged flowers and practiced calligraphy, as well as wielding swords and commanding armies. They lived in a world of rigid hierarchy and profound beauty, of violence and refinement, of loyalty so absolute it could demand death, and of a code Bushido, the way of the warrior that shaped every breath they took. Tonight, you will meet them, not as caricatures or movie heroes, but as people navigating an intricate world of obligation and honor, beauty and brutality. You will walk beside them through their daily lives, their training, their battles, their ceremonies, their decline, and their transformation into memory and legend. Let yourself relax completely. Your only task is to rest, to breathe, to allow these images and stories to drift through your consciousness like autumn leaves on a pond's surface, touching, floating, eventually sinking into the depths of sleep. We begin, as all journeys to Japan must begin, with an understanding of the land itself, a mountainous archipelago where communities developed in isolation, where rice cultivation demanded cooperation, where the geography created a culture of both fierce independence and absolute loyalty, where the volcanic soil and the monsoon rains and the cherry blossoms and the earthquakes shaped a people's character. The samurai arose from this land. They were born from Japan's particular history, its clan-based society, its adoption and adaptation of Chinese culture, its periods of imperial rule and feudal chaos, its isolation from the outside world, and its occasional, transformative contacts with foreigners. They were created by necessity the need for warriors to defend estates, to enforce order, to fight in the endless conflicts between competing powers. But they became something more: a class, a culture, an ideal. As you drift now, imagine you are approaching Japan across the sea, in the year 1200 perhaps, when the samurai were already centuries old, but their greatest era was just beginning. You see the mountainous coastline, the green rice terraces climbing hillsides, the thatched roof villages, the white walls and dark tile roofs of castles rising from strategic heights. You smell salt air mixed with wood smoke, hear the calls of fishermen, the ring of a temple bell marking the hour. You are arriving in a world where every gesture has meaning, where social position is absolute, where duty outweighs personal desire, where death is accepted as natural and honorable if it comes in service to one's lord, where beauty and violence coexist so intimately that the same hand that wields a sword in morning battle will arrange flowers in the evening with exquisite care. This is the world of the samurai. Let us enter it together, slowly, carefully, with respect and curiosity. Let these next 3 hours be a meditation, a dream, a journey to a place and time that no longer exists except in memory and story. Let yourself drift deeper now, your breathing slowing, your mind quieting, as we begin at the beginning with the birth of the samurai. Centuries ago, when Japan was still finding its identity and warriors were just beginning to understand what they might become. The temple bell sounds. The mist rises. The first light touches Mount Fuji's snow-capped peak. And somewhere in a remote province, a young man picks up a bow for the first time, not knowing that he is becoming part of something that will last 1,000 years and echo long after. Rest now. The journey begins. The world before the samurai. Heian Japan, 794–1185. To understand the samurai, we must first understand the world that created them. Let yourself drift back to the year 800, to the Heian period, when Japan's capital had just moved to Heian Kyo, the capital of peace and tranquility, the city we now call Kyoto. This was a world of extraordinary refinement. The imperial court modeled itself on China's Tang dynasty, the most sophisticated civilization in Asia at that time. Chinese culture flooded into Japan: Buddhism, Confucianism, written language, architecture, government bureaucracy, art, poetry, philosophy. But the Japanese didn't simply copy, they adapted, refined, made it their own. Imagine the imperial palace complex, vast wooden buildings with curved tile roofs, painted in red and white, surrounded by gardens of raked gravel and carefully placed stones, artificial lakes with arched bridges, cherry trees and willows. Inside, the emperor descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. Divine but increasingly powerless, presided over a court where appearance and protocol mattered more than military might. The courtiers wore layer upon layer of silk robes, the colors and combinations carefully chosen to express rank, season, and sensibility. A woman of the court might wear 12 layers Juni Hido, the colors showing at the sleeves and neckline in harmonious or deliberately surprising combinations. Poetry was essential. A courtier who could not compose an elegant 31-syllable waka poem in response to seeing cherry blossoms or hearing the first cuckoo of spring was considered barely civilized. The greatest literature of this period was written by women. The Tale of Genji, by Lady Murasaki Shikibu, written around 1010, is often called the world's first novel, a vast, psychologically complex narrative about court life, love, loss, beauty, and the Buddhist recognition of impermanence. The Pillow Book, by Sei Shonagon, offers witty, sharp observations about court society. These women wrote in Japanese phonetic script hiragana, while men were expected to write in Chinese characters. which gave women a freedom to express themselves that paradoxically made their literature more enduring. But this refined, peaceful, poetry-composing world had a problem. The emperor's government couldn't actually govern the country effectively. The elegant bureaucracy modeled on China worked beautifully in theory, but failed in practice. Japan's mountainous terrain, the power of local landowners, the great family's tendency to keep private armies, the complexity of clan relationships, all of this meant that real power was fragmenting, moving away from the court into the provinces. And in the provinces, a new kind of man was emerging, the warrior. The origins: warriors in the provinces. The word samurai comes from the verb saburao, which means to serve or to attend upon. Originally, it referred to anyone in service to a noble, but gradually it came to mean specifically military servants, those who served with weapons. How did warriors first arise? The answer lies in land and power. As the Heian period progressed, the imperial government granted estates shun to nobles, temples, and monasteries, theoretically temporarily, but in practice permanently. These estates were tax-exempt, which made them extremely valuable. The owners didn't live on these estates, they stayed in the capital, enjoying court life. So they appointed managers, local powerful families, to run them. These local managers needed to protect the estates from bandits, rival claimants, and peasant revolts. They needed to enforce order, collect rents, settle disputes. For this, they needed armed men. They recruited from younger sons of the provincial aristocracy, from ambitious commoners who showed military aptitude, from anyone willing to trade farming for fighting. These early warriors weren't yet samurai in the later sense. They were rough men, farmers who could fight, local strongmen. They wore simple armor, leather, or iron plates laced together. They fought primarily on horseback with bows and arrows, the sword being a secondary weapon. They owed loyalty to whoever could feed them and give them status. But gradually, something changed. These warriors began to see themselves as a distinct class. They developed their own culture, their own values. They prized martial skill, physical courage, loyalty to one's leader, and increasingly a sense of honor that went beyond mere survival. Two clans became dominant among these provincial warriors: the Taira, also called Hike, and the Minamoto, also called Genji. Both clans were descended from emperors' younger sons, sent to the provinces to make their fortunes, because the court couldn't support them all. This imperial connection gave them prestige, but their power came from their military strength. The Hoshin and Heiji rebellions' warriors enter the capital. For generations, these warrior clans fought in the provinces, largely ignored by the elegant court in Kyoto. But in the mid-12th century, court politics became so tangled, so vicious, that the aristocrats made a fatal mistake. They invited the warriors to the capital to settle their disputes. Two brief civil wars, the Hojin Rebellion 1156 and the Heiji Rebellion 1159-1160, brought Taira and Minamoto warriors into Kyoto to fight on behalf of competing factions within the imperial family and the powerful Fujiwara regents who controlled the emperors. These rebellions were short, brutal affairs. The refined courtiers watched in shock as armored horsemen clashed in the streets, as arrows flew through palace gardens, as buildings burned. The warriors weren't cruel for cruelty's sake, but they inhabited a different world from the courtiers. They settled disputes with violence, not poetry. They valued effectiveness, not elegance. The Taira clan, led by Taira no Kiyomori, emerged victorious from these conflicts. Kiyomori became the most powerful man in Japan, controlling the imperial court, marrying his daughter to the emperor, making his grandson an emperor. For a brief period 1160-1180, the Taira seemed invincible. They adopted courtly ways, becoming half courtier, half warrior, ruling from Kyoto but backed by military might. But their very success created enemies. The Minamoto clan, defeated and scattered after the Heiji rebellion, nursed their resentment in exile. Kiyomori had made the mistake of sparing two young Minamoto boys Yoritomo and Yoshihatsune, thinking they posed no threat. He was wrong. The Genpei War 1180–1185, the Samurai Age begins. The Genpei War, the conflict between the Taira general and Minamoto High/Pei, was the crucible in which the samurai as we know them were forged. This 5-year conflict ranged across Japan, from the northern mountains to the southern seas, and established the warrior class as the true rulers of the nation. Let yourself imagine the beginning. The year is 1180. Prince Machihito, an imperial prince frustrated at being passed over for the throne, issues a secret call to arms against the Taira. The message reaches Minamoto no Yoritomo, now a grown man living in exile in the eastern provinces. Yoritomo raises the banner of rebellion. The early battles go badly for Minamoto. Yoritomo's forces are defeated, and he flees into the mountains. But he is patient, methodical. He begins building alliances with local warrior families in the eastern provinces, the Kanto region, far from Kyoto. He offers them rewards, position, legitimacy. Slowly, his army grows. Meanwhile, his younger brother Yoshitsune emerges as a military genius. Yoshitsune is everything the warrior ideal will come to celebrate: brave, skilled, swift, innovative, loyal. His campaigns against the Taira are masterpieces of strategy and daring. In 1184, Yoshitsune wins the Battle of Ikai no Tani by leading a surprise cavalry attack down a cliff face so steep that the Taira assumed no army could descend it. His horsemen appear as if from nowhere, sowing panic, routing the enemy. In 1185, at the Sea Battle of Dan no Yura, in the narrow straits between Honshu and Kyushu, Yoshitsune's forces destroy the Taira fleet. This is the climactic battle, the stuff of legend and epic. The child Emperor Antoku, grandson of Taira no Kiyomori, is held by his grandmother as she leaps into the sea rather than be captured, drowning them both. The sacred sword, one of the 3 imperial regalia, is lost in the deep water. The Taira clan is annihilated. This battle would be immortalized in the Tale of the Hike, an epic narrative of the rise and fall of the Taira clan, chanted by blind monks to the accompaniment of the biwa lute. Its opening lines are perhaps the most famous in Japanese literature. The sound of the Jinshoja bells echoes the impermanence of all things. The color of the Sala flowers reveals the truth that the prosperous must decline. The proud do not endure. They are like a dream on a spring night. The mighty fall at last. They are as dust before the wind. This Buddhist sense of impermanence, of the transience of power and glory, would become central to the samurai worldview. Minamoto no Yoritomo, the first shogun. Yoritomo's victory was complete. The Taira were destroyed. The imperial court was helpless. Yoritomo could have taken power in Kyoto, become a dictator like his rival Kiyomori had been. But Yoritomo was wiser, more patient. He chose instead to establish his headquarters in Kamakura, a small fishing village in the eastern provinces, far from the court's intrigues and corrupting elegance. From there, he would rule Japan not as emperor. The imperial line was sacred, untouchable, but as shogun generalissimo, military dictator. In 1192, the emperor formally granted Yoritomo the title of Sei Taishogun, barbarian subduing great general, the supreme military commander. This was theoretically a temporary military appointment, but it became hereditary, permanent. For the next 680 years, until 1868, Japan would be ruled by shoguns, military dictators, who governed in the emperor's name, while keeping the emperor himself powerless but revered. This was the birth of the samurai age proper. Yoritomo established a system called Bakufu tent government, implying military rule, and rewarded his loyal warriors with lands and positions. In return, these warriors owed him absolute loyalty and military service. This was the beginning of the feudal system that would define Japan for centuries. The relationship between lord and vassal was personal, direct, and sacred. A samurai's first duty was to his lord. If his lord commanded him to attack a superior force, he attacked. If his lord ordered him to commit seppuku ritual suicide, he complied. This loyalty was the core of everything. Yoritomo was ruthless in consolidating power. He even turned against his own brother Yoshitsune, the war hero, suspecting him of disloyalty. Yoshitsune was hounded across Japan and finally cornered in the far north, where he committed suicide rather than be captured. This tragedy, the loyal brother betrayed by the suspicious, ungrateful older brother, became one of Japan's most beloved stories, symbolizing the conflict between personal affection and political necessity, between human feeling and duty. When Yoritomo died in 1199, falling from his horse, an ignoble death for a great warrior, his sons proved weak. Real power passed to the Hojo clan, who ruled as regents shikken for puppet shoguns. This created a bizarre triple layer of puppet rulers. The emperor in Kyoto was a puppet of the shogun in Kamakura, and the shogun was a puppet of the Hojo regent. But the system worked, maintaining stability for over a century. The Mongol invasions 1274-1281 defining moments. The samurai faced their greatest test, not from internal rivals, but from an external threat: the Mongol Empire, the largest land empire in history, which had conquered China, Central Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. Kublai Khan, the Mongol emperor of China, demanded Japan's submission. The Bakufu refused. In 1274, a Mongol fleet carrying tens of thousands of soldiers landed on Kyushu, Japan's southernmost main island. The samurai were shocked. The Mongols didn't fight the way Japanese warriors did. Japanese warfare had evolved into something almost ritualistic. Warriors would announce their names and lineages, challenge opponents to single combat, fight with a certain code of honorable behavior. The Mongols had no interest in such niceties. They fought in coordinated units, used explosives, bombs thrown by catapult, creating smoke and noise that terrified the samurai, and attacked without warning or mercy. The samurai were initially overwhelmed, but that first invasion was cut short by a storm that damaged the Mongol fleet, forcing it to withdraw. The Bakufu spent the next 7 years preparing for another invasion, building walls along the coast, training, gathering forces. In 1281, the Mongols returned with an even larger fleet, perhaps 140,000 men, one of the largest amphibious invasions in history until World War II. For 2 months, the samurai held the coast, fighting desperately. Then, a typhoon later called Kamikaze, divine wind struck the Mongol fleet, sinking most of the ships and drowning tens of thousands of soldiers. The invasion was shattered. These invasions had profound effects on the samurai. First, they proved that foreign conquest was possible, that Japan was not invulnerable. Second, they demonstrated that the old style of individual heroic combat was inadequate against disciplined massed forces. Third, they bankrupted many samurai families who had fought for the nation but received no reward. There was no captured land to distribute. This economic strain helped destabilize the Kamakura Bakufu. But most importantly, the Kamikaze, the divine wind, seemed to prove that Japan was protected by the gods. that the nation was sacred, special, divinely chosen. This belief in Japanese exceptionalism would have consequences reaching into the 20th century. The Ashikaga period, 1336-1573, refinement and warfare. The Kamakura Bakufu fell in 1333 during a brief imperial restoration that quickly devolved into civil war. From this chaos emerged a new shogunate, the Ashikaga, which moved the capital back to Kyoto. The Ashikaga period is paradoxical. Politically, it was one of constant warfare, with the shogun's authority weak and regional warlords daimyo fighting endless battles for power and territory. Yet culturally, it was a golden age, when many of the arts we associate with Japan reached their mature forms. During this period, samurai culture fused with aristocratic culture. Warriors learned to appreciate and practice the refined arts. Zen Buddhism, which had been introduced from China, became the warrior's religion of choice, with its emphasis on discipline, meditation, sudden enlightenment, and the acceptance of death. The tea ceremony Chinoyu evolved from a simple act of drinking tea into an elaborate ritual embodying Zen principles: simplicity, tranquility, respect, purity. Sen no Rikyu, the great tea master, taught that the ceremony was not about the tea, but about achieving a moment of perfect presence, perfect harmony between host and guest, human and nature, form and spirit. No theater developed, with its masked performers, stylized movements, and hauntingly beautiful chants exploring themes of ghosts, memory, loss, and transcendence. Landscape gardening became a high art, with gardens designed as three-dimensional paintings, or as Zen koans puzzles to meditate upon. The rock garden at Ryounji Temple in Kyoto, with its 15 rocks arranged on raked white gravel, is perhaps the most famous, its meaning endlessly debated, perhaps meaningless, perhaps expressing the essence of Zen. Ink painting sumi-e, using black ink on paper or silk, achieved a spare, suggestive beauty, capturing a landscape or a bird or a monk in a few swift, confident brushstrokes. All of these arts were practiced by samurai. A warrior was expected to be not just a fighter, but a cultured man, able to compose poetry, appreciate art, perform the tea ceremony, understand Zen paradoxes. This combination of martial prowess and aesthetic refinement became the samurai ideal. But while culture flourished, war never ceased. The Onin War 1467-1477, a succession dispute that drew in warrior clans from across Japan, devastated Kyoto and marked the beginning of the Sengoku period. The age of warring states, when central authority collapsed completely and Japan fragmented into dozens of domains, ruled by daimyo who warred constantly with their neighbors. This was the age when the castle became central to Japanese warfare and society. Every daimyo built a castle, first simple wooden forts on mountaintops, then increasingly elaborate structures with stone walls, moats, multiple baileys, towering keeps. Castles like Himeji, with its white walls and elegant curves, or Matsumoto, dark and imposing, symbolized the daimyo's power and provided secure bases in a chaotic age. It was in this period of constant warfare that the samurai truly became professional warriors. Battle was no longer occasional but continuous. Skill with weapons, strategy, leadership, courage under fire, these were matters of survival. The weak died. The strong prevailed. The samurai class hardened, became more martial, more focused on warfare as not just a duty but an identity. And it was in this chaotic age that three men would emerge who would unify Japan and bring an end to centuries of civil war, creating the final, mature form of samurai society: Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. But that story comes later. For now, rest in this understanding, the samurai were born from Japan's particular geography and history. From the need for warriors in a mountainous country, where central authority was weak. From the fusion of Chinese culture and Japanese adaptation. From centuries of warfare that created a professional military class. They were shaped by Buddhism's teaching of impermanence, and by Confucianism's emphasis on loyalty and hierarchy. They were created by violence but refined by culture. They were farmers' sons who became warriors, who became aristocrats, who never forgot they were warriors, awakening the samurai morning. Let yourself imagine awakening as a samurai in the year 1600, during the Tokugawa period, when 3 centuries of civil war have finally ended, and an era of peace is beginning, though the warrior culture remains dominant. You are a middle-ranking samurai, a Hatamoto, a direct retainer of the Tokugawa shogun, living in Edo, the shogun's new capital, the city that will become Tokyo. Your stipend is 500 koku of rice per year. A koku is the amount of rice needed to feed one person for a year, so your income supports a household of several people plus servants. You're not wealthy, but comfortable, respected, part of the ruling class. The room where you sleep is small, about 8 tatami mats in size. The tatami thick straw mats with rush grass covering are slightly springy underfoot, fresh-smelling, precisely fitted. The walls are paper shoji screens in wooden frames, translucent, letting in soft light. There is almost no furniture, a low writing desk in one corner, a scroll hanging in the Takonoma alcove with a seasonal ink painting, a bamboo vase holding a single branch of plum blossoms. You sleep on a futon cotton-filled mattresses that are spread on the tatami at night and folded away in the morning. Your pillow is a small wooden block with a cushioned depression for your neck, designed to keep your elaborate hairstyle intact while you sleep. The first light of dawn is touching the screens. In winter, this might be 7 or 8 in the morning. In summer, as early as 4:30. You wake without needing to be called. A samurai is supposed to be self-disciplined, rising early, beginning the day with purpose. You sit up, the movement smooth and controlled. A samurai's movements are always controlled, never rushed or clumsy. You're wearing a simple cotton sleeping robe. The room is cold. Japanese houses have no central heating, and winter in Edo can be bitter, but you're accustomed to discomfort. A samurai doesn't complain about cold or heat, hunger or fatigue. A servant has already been up for hours, quietly sliding open the wooden shutters that protect the house at night, lighting charcoal in the braziers, heating water, preparing the morning. This servant is not a slave. Slavery doesn't exist in Japan in the same way it does elsewhere, but a member of your household, of lower status, owing service, protected in turn by your patronage. You stand, fold the futon and bedding with precise movements. There is a correct way to fold, to store, and change into your day clothes. Dressing the samurai wardrobe. A samurai's clothing is both practical and symbolic, indicating his status at every moment. Your undergarment is a fundoshi, a loincloth wrapped and tied in a specific way. Over this, a cotton under kimono, then the kimono itself. Kimono literally means thing to wear, and its basic form a T-shaped robe with wide sleeves, wrapped left over right, secured with a wide belt, has been standard for centuries, and will remain so for centuries more. Your kimono is made of silk. Though not ostentatiously fine silk, samurai culture values restraint. The color is subdued dark blue, or brown, or gray. The pattern, if any, is subtle. Across the back and on each shoulder are your family crest in white, or a contrasting color, declaring your identity to anyone who sees you. Over the kimono, you wear a sleeveless jacket called a kamishimo, which has broad, Stiff shoulders that extend horizontally, making your silhouette imposing, formal. This is the standard samurai formal wear for the Edo period. Below, you wear hakama wide, pleated trousers that hang to the ankles, tied at the waist. Hakama allow ease of movement, including the rapid dropping to a kneeling position that samurai etiquette often requires. There are 7 pleats, 5 in front, 2 in back, each representing one of the 7 virtues of Bushido. The warrior code will explore more later: integrity, respect, courage, honor, compassion, honesty, and loyalty. On your feet, tabai white split-toe socks. Later, when you go out, you'll wear zori sandals with thongs that fit between the big toe and the second toe. The final essential, your swords. In the Edo period, the samurai's right to wear 2 swords, the daisho big and small, is the most visible mark of his status. No one else may wear them. Merchants, farmers, artisans might be wealthy, might be skilled, might be learned, but they cannot wear the 2 swords. This privilege belongs to the samurai alone. The long sword, the katana, with a blade about 27 inches long, is worn edge up, thrust through the belt on your left side. The short sword, the wakizashi, about 12 to 18 inches, accompanies it. Both are razor sharp, perfectly balanced, beautiful objects. You check them every day, ensuring they're secure, clean, ready. You hope never to draw them in anger, but you must always be ready to do so instantly. The katana and wakizashi are discussed in detail, but I'll note here that we'll return to swords more deeply in later sections. For now, know they are not just weapons but spiritual objects, the soul of the samurai. You examine yourself in a small bronze mirror. Your hair is pulled back from the front of your head, the forehead shaved in the samurai style called chanmij, and the rest gathered into a topknot folded forward over the crown. This hairstyle is distinctive, practical for wearing a helmet, and legally required. Samurai must wear their hair this way. It's as much a mark of status as the swords. You are dressed. You look like what you are, a warrior of the ruling class, even in peacetime. Now the day begins in earnest. Morning rituals, cleansing, prayer, and practice. Before eating, you perform your morning ablutions. Water has been heated and brought to a small washing area. You splash your face, rinse your mouth. You don't bathe. Full baths are taken in the evening or periodically at a public bathhouse. Morning washing is symbolic as much as practical, a small purification before the day. Many samurai begin the day with a brief session of meditation or prayer. If you follow Zen Buddhism, which many samurai do, you might sit in zazen, formal seated meditation, for 20 or 30 minutes. The posture is precise, sitting on a small cushion, in either lotus or half lotus position, back straight, chin tucked slightly, hands in your lap in the cosmic mudra, left palm holding right palm, thumbs touching lightly, eyes half closed, gaze lowered. You focus on your breath, counting inhalations and exhalations. Or you hold a koan, a paradoxical question: what is the sound of one hand clapping? In your mind. The purpose isn't to relax, exactly. It's to achieve a state of alert presence, to cut through the constant chatter of thoughts, to experience directly the nature of mind and reality. For a samurai, this practice is essential. In battle, there's no time for hesitation, doubt, or fear. The trained mind acts instantly, without thinking. Zazen cultivates that state. After meditation, a brief devotion at the family Buddhist altar Butsuden and the Shinto household shrine Kamadana. You light a stick of incense before the Butsuden. Perhaps murmur a prayer for your ancestors. At the Kamadana, a small shrine on a high shelf, you make a small offering, a cup of sake, some rice, a sprig of evergreen. Clap your hands twice to summon the kami spirits, and bow. This dual practice, Buddhism and Shinto together, is typical in Japan. They're not seen as contradictory. Shinto connects you to the natural world, the seasons, the land, your ancestors, the Japanese nation itself. Buddhism helps you understand suffering, impermanence, the path to enlightenment. A samurai needs both. Then, if weather permits, practice. Even in peacetime, a samurai must train. You step into the inner garden, a small space, perhaps only a few square meters, with raked gravel, a stone lantern, a carefully pruned pine. The morning air is crisp. You can see your breath. You practice kata, formal patterns of movement with the sword. Drawing the katana from its scabbard in a single fluid motion. Cutting through an imaginary opponent, resheathing without looking. These kata are not random. They've been developed over centuries, refined, passed down from teacher to student. Each movement has meaning, purpose. You've performed these kata thousands of times, but each performance is an opportunity for perfection, for improvement, for deeper understanding. The practice is meditative. You're not thinking about the movements, you've internalized them. Your body knows what to do. You're present, aware, feeling the sword's weight, the morning cold on your skin, the gravel under your feet. After sword work, perhaps archery practice if you have space and equipment, or staff work, or grappling. The samurai's training is comprehensive. You must be ready for any situation. Finally, back inside, you perform calligraphy shodo. You kneel at your low desk. Before you are an ink stone, an ink stick, brushes of various sizes, paper. You grind the ink stick in water on the stone, preparing the ink fresh. The grinding itself is meditative, the gradual darkening of the water, the smell of the ink. You choose a phrase, perhaps a line from a Buddhist sutra, or a poem, or a maxim from Confucius. You dip your brush, let the excess ink drip back, and begin. The brushstrokes must be confident, flowing, balanced. Each stroke is made in one movement, without hesitation or correction. It's similar to sword work, you must commit fully. Once the stroke is begun, it must be completed. There's no going back. The finished calligraphy is examined. Is the balance right? Do the characters have spirit, vitality, what the Chinese call kai? Or are they stiff, dead? You might do several versions, comparing, gradually improving. Or you might decide this is enough, that the first attempt had a spontaneity, a presence that later, more careful attempts lack. This is how a samurai begins his day, with discipline, practice, ritual, beauty. Not lazily, not hurriedly, but purposefully, mindfully. Every action is training. Every moment is an opportunity to embody the ideals of the warrior. Breakfast, simple food, formal manners. Breakfast is ready. The family gathers in the main room. Your wife and children kneel at the low table. The children are quiet, well-behaved. A samurai family is not casual, relaxed in the modern sense. There is hierarchy, formality, even in the home. The meal is simple but sufficient. Rice, always rice, the staple, the center of every meal. In fact, the word for meal, gohan, is the same word for cooked rice, indicating its centrality. Miso soup, made from fermented soybean paste, containing perhaps some seaweed, tofu, or vegetables. Pickled vegetables, tsukemono, providing salt, flavor, and fermented health benefits. A small piece of grilled fish, or a few slices of dried fish. Maybe a small square of rolled omelet. Perhaps some natto, fermented soybeans, sticky and pungent, an acquired taste but nutritious and cheap. There is no meat. The eating of four-legged animals is officially prohibited by Buddhist precepts, though this is occasionally ignored, especially in rural areas. Fowl and fish are acceptable. Dairy products are virtually unknown in Japan. No butter, cheese, or milk. Green tea accompanies the meal. The tea is not the thick, whisked matcha used in the tea ceremony, but a lighter brew, refreshing, slightly bitter. You eat with chopsticks, which require skill and convey proper manners. There are rules. Don't stick chopsticks upright in rice that's done only for offerings to the dead. Don't pass food directly from chopstick to chopstick again, associated with funeral rites. Don't point chopsticks at anyone. Don't wave them around or lick them. These rules aren't arbitrary. They reflect respect, mindfulness, self-control. The meal is eaten in near silence or with minimal, quiet conversation. Eating is serious. You're nourishing your body, maintaining your strength for service to your Lord. Gratitude is appropriate. Before eating, you bring your palms together and say, "Etada kakamasu, I humbly receive." After finishing, you again bring palms together, "Gachi sausama des haita," it was a feast, expressing thanks. The portions are moderate. Overeating is unbecoming. The ideal is enough food for energy, but not so much as to cause sluggishness. A samurai must be ready at all times. A full belly is a liability. The household wife, children, and duty. After breakfast, the household disperses to various duties. Let's pause to understand the structure of a samurai family, because family is fundamental to samurai identity. Your wife, if you're fortunate, you married for love, or at least compatibility. But more likely, your marriage was arranged, a strategic alliance between families designed to strengthen political connections, consolidate lands, or settle disputes. Your wife came to you with a dowry. The marriage was formalized by drinking sake together in a ceremony before witnesses. Your wife's role is to manage the household, a significant responsibility. She oversees servants, manages finances, the day-to-day money, though you control major expenditures, organizes meals, maintains the home, and teaches the children, especially daughters, proper behavior and skills. She's expected to be loyal, obedient, chaste, and self-sacrificing. The Confucian ideal holds that a woman obeys her father before marriage, her husband during marriage, and her son in widowhood. This is the official ideology. Reality is more nuanced. A strong-willed, intelligent woman can wield considerable influence, especially if her husband respects her judgment. Some samurai wives were literate, educated in arts like calligraphy and music. Many participated in religious life, visiting temples, performing devotions. Some were trained in the use of the naginata, a pole weapon with a curved blade, both for self-defense and as a symbol of the samurai woman's role as household protector when her husband was away. Divorce is possible but brings shame. A husband can divorce his wife relatively easily by writing a letter of divorce, mikudarihan, 3.5-line letter. A wife can theoretically divorce her husband, but it's difficult, requiring extreme circumstances like abuse or abandonment. Most marriages endure, sustained by duty, children, and resignation. Your children, you have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. They are being raised according to strict principles. From the youngest age, they're taught self-control. A samurai child doesn't cry easily, doesn't complain, doesn't show weakness. Physical toughness is cultivated. They're sent out in cold weather lightly dressed to harden them. They're expected to endure minor injuries without tears. Your elder son, age 12, is already undergoing serious training. He practices swordsmanship with a wooden bakan, learns to ride, studies archery, and begins learning to read and write classical Chinese, the language of scholarship, government, and high culture. He copies Confucian texts, memorizing maxims about loyalty, filial piety, righteousness. He's also learning Bushido, the way of the warrior, not from a book, but through observation, stories, and example. He hears tales of famous samurai who displayed perfect loyalty, who chose death over dishonor, who embodied courage and grace under pressure. He learns what it means to be a man, a warrior, a member of the ruling class. Your younger son, age 7, still spends much time playing, but but his play is already shaped toward his future. His toys include a small wooden sword, a toy bow, toy armor. He imitates his older brother, his father, practicing the stances and movements he sees. Your daughter, age 9, has a different education. She learns domestic skills, sewing, weaving, cooking, managing a household. She also learns the arts considered appropriate for a woman of her class, playing a musical instrument like the koto, a zither, flower arranging ikebana, the tea ceremony, though not as a full practitioner, just the basics, and calligraphy. Most importantly, she learns proper behavior, how to sit, stand, walk, speak, all with grace and modesty. She learns to lower her voice, to defer to men, to manage a household, to raise children. She's being prepared for marriage, which will come in a few years, to a man chosen by you for strategic reasons. You love your children, but you don't indulge them. Love and duty are different things. You're preparing them for lives that will require strength, endurance, self-sacrifice. The world is hard, they must be harder. The working day service to the Lord. After breakfast, you prepare for your day's duties. As a Hatamoto, you owe regular service to the shogun. The specific duties depend on your position and assignment. Perhaps you serve in the castle as a guard, standing watch at one of the gates or inner checkpoints, ensuring that only authorized persons enter. This sounds tedious, but it's an honor. You're protecting the shogun, the center of power, the source of order. You stand at attention for hours, alert, ready, though nothing may happen. A samurai doesn't need constant action to feel purposeful. Doing one's duty, even if it's standing still, is enough. Or perhaps you serve in an administrative capacity, working in one of the many bureaus that govern the shogunate's lands. You might review petitions from villagers, assess tax records, adjudicate minor disputes, oversee construction projects. This requires literacy, numeracy, judgment. You spend hours kneeling at a desk, reading documents, writing reports, consulting with colleagues, making decisions according to precedent and law. Or you might have a military assignment, overseeing the training of lower-ranking samurai, inspecting fortifications, organizing the logistics of the shogun's military household. Even in peacetime, the military structure remains. Warriors must stay ready. Whatever your specific duty, you perform it conscientiously. You arrive on time, work diligently, follow the hierarchy. You address superiors with respect, using the appropriate honorifics, bowing to the correct depth. You treat subordinates with a mixture of authority and benevolence, expecting obedience, but also assuming responsibility for their welfare. The Edo period shogunate is a vast bureaucracy, requiring thousands of samurai to staff it. This transformation of warriors into bureaucrats is one of the Tokugawa regime's great innovations. Samurai aren't fighting anymore, there's no war. But they're still essential, still the ruling class. They've been converted into administrators, their martial ethos channeled into diligent service. During breaks, you might visit colleagues, discussing work or personal matters, sharing tea, perhaps composing poetry together. These relationships are important. In a hierarchical society, personal connections matter. Patronage, recommendation, favor these grease the wheels of advancement. The midday meal, sustenance and simplicity. Midday brings a break for the noon meal. If you're at the castle or in a government office, food is brought to you, or you visit a simple eating establishment nearby. The meal is similar to breakfast: rice, soup, pickles, perhaps some fish or vegetables. It's eaten quickly, without ceremony. This is fuel, not a social occasion. Interestingly, the later Edo period will see the development of a more vibrant food culture, especially in cities like Edo and Osaka, where merchants and artisans, the chonin townspeople, enjoy more elaborate meals. Sushi, originally a fast food, tempura fried seafood and vegetables, introduced by Portuguese, and sake in taverns. But samurai, especially those on duty, eat simply. Extravagance in food is inappropriate, suggesting a lack of self-control, an improper focus on bodily pleasure. After eating, perhaps a brief rest, though not sleep. A samurai doesn't nap on duty. Then back to work until late afternoon. Afternoon training, study, or leisure. The working day typically ends in mid to late afternoon. You return home as the sun begins its descent. The evening is yours, within limits. You have duties to maintain your skills, to improve your mind, but there's also time for what might be called leisure, though the samurai wouldn't quite think of it that way. You might practice calligraphy, copying a Buddhist sutra or a favorite poem. Or you might read not for entertainment exactly, but for self-cultivation. Confucian classics, Buddhist texts, Chinese poetry, Japanese histories, military treatises. Reading is not passive for the samurai. You read to understand principles, to find models of correct behavior, to train your judgment. Or you might compose poetry. Poetry is essential to samurai culture, especially waka 31-syllable poems and, increasingly in the Edo period, haiku 17-syllable poems. A samurai is expected to be able to compose a poem appropriate to an occasion, seeing cherry blossoms, parting from a friend, experiencing a moment of insight. The poems aren't confessional or emotional in a Western sense. They capture a moment, a season, an awareness of impermanence, often through natural imagery. For example, the great haiku master Basho himself, not a samurai, but much admired by them, wrote, "An old pond, a frog jumps in, the sound of water." This seems simple, but it captures a moment of sudden awareness, the breaking of silence, the ripple spreading. It's Zen-like in its simplicity and depth. Or you might practice the tea ceremony, if you've been trained in it. The ceremony can take hours, each gesture prescribed, the host preparing and serving tea to a few guests in a small, austere tea room. The point is not the tea itself, but the shared experience of harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility, the four principles of the ceremony. You might entertain guests, fellow samurai, perhaps a superior or subordinate. Hospitality is a duty. The gathering is formal but can include conversation, poetry composition, admiring a hanging scroll, or an arrangement of flowers. The aim is aesthetic appreciation and reinforcement of social bonds. Or, if you're in a city like Edo, you might venture out to the pleasure quarters, the licensed districts where courtesans, actors, and entertainers work. This might seem contradictory. Isn't the samurai supposed to be ascetic? But Edo period society is more complex. While the official ideology emphasizes duty, restraint, and self-denial, there's also a recognition that humans have desires. The pleasure quarters are a release valve, a contained space where rules are looser, where beauty and pleasure are openly pursued. Many samurai visit these districts, drink sake, watch kabuki theater, which is officially disreputable, but wildly popular, enjoy the company of courtesans who are often cultured, witty, and skilled in arts like music and conversation, not just sex. It's understood that what happens in the pleasure quarters doesn't quite count against one's official reputation, as long as you don't neglect your duties, go into debt, or cause scandal. This duality, strict public morality and private indulgence, is managed through a concept called Taitmi, the public face, official truth, and Han, private feelings, actual truth. You maintain the proper appearance, the correct behavior in your official role, while acknowledging that privately, you're human, with human weaknesses. Evening, the bath and family time. As evening deepens, you take a bath. Bathing is a Japanese ritual, profoundly relaxing and culturally important. You might bathe at home if you have a bath, a wooden tub filled with water heated by a fire underneath, or you visit a public bathhouse sento, which is common in cities. The bathing process first, you wash and rinse yourself outside the tub, using a bucket of water, scrubbing with a cloth. Only when you're clean do you enter the tub, which is very hot, and soak. The soaking is the point. You sit in the near scalding water, feeling your muscles relax, your mind quieting. It's a form of meditation of purification. If at a public bath, there's a social aspect. You might chat with neighbors, exchange gossip, relax in companionable silence. The bathhouse is one of the few places where class distinctions soften slightly, where samurai and commoners might bathe in the same space, though even here, subtle distinctions remain. After bathing, you return home, feeling clean, refreshed. You change into a simple cotton yukata, a casual kimono, comfortable for evening. The family gathers for the evening meal, similar in structure to breakfast and lunch, but perhaps slightly more elaborate, more relaxed. This is family time. The children might tell you about their day, though they wouldn't be presumptuous or chatty. Your wife might discuss household matters. You might share a story, a lesson, a piece of news. After the meal, the children are sent to bed. You and your wife might talk quietly, or you might spend the evening separately, she with sewing or other tasks, you with reading or writing. Before sleep, the futons are laid out. You perform brief evening devotions at the Buddhist altar and Shinto shrine. And then, to bed. The house is dark. There's little artificial light. Oil lamps or candles are expensive, reserved for necessity. When the sun sets, so does activity. You sleep deeply, dreamlessly, ready to wake with the dawn and begin again. Variations. Other samurai lives. The description above is of a middle-ranking samurai in the Tokugawa period, living in a time of peace. But samurai lives varied greatly by time period, region, and rank. A low-ranking samurai, a goknin or ashigaru officer, might live much more modestly, his house smaller, his income barely sufficient, his duties more menial. He might not even live in a castle town but in a village, farming his own land to supplement his stipend, his life indistinguishable from a well-off farmer, except for his swords and his legal status. A high-ranking samurai, a daimyo, or one of his senior retainers, would live in far greater splendor. His mansion would be large, with multiple buildings, gardens, many servants. He might own magnificent swords, fine armor, priceless works of art. He'd participate in elaborate ceremonies, host important guests, navigate complex political intrigues. His children would receive the finest education, perhaps from famous scholars or warriors. And in the earlier Sengoku period, when warfare was constant, a samurai's life was dominated by military campaigns. He might spend months away from home, living in military camps, marching, fighting, besieging castles. His skills would be tested constantly. His life expectancy would be much shorter. The peaceful routines described above wouldn't exist. Every day would bring the possibility of death. But across all variations, certain constants, discipline, hierarchy, duty, the cultivation of skill, the awareness of impermanence, the striving for a kind of perfection in action, the identity as a warrior even when not fighting, the dojo where warriors are forged. Let yourself drift now to the training hall, the dojo, literally place of the way. This is sacred space for the samurai, where boys become warriors, where skills are honed through endless repetition, where the body and mind are forged into instruments of perfect action. The dojo is a simple wooden building, its floor covered with smooth planks or tatami. At one end, a small shrine, perhaps a shelf holding a scroll with calligraphy, or an image of a kami or Buddha who protects warriors. Before beginning practice, students and teacher alike bow toward the shrine, acknowledging the sacred nature of what they're about to do. The teaching follows the master-student model that governs all Japanese arts. A master, a sensei, who has spent decades perfecting his art, takes students under his tutelage. These students don't pay tuition in the modern sense. Instead, they enter into a relationship of obligation. The master teaches, the students owe him loyalty, respect, and service. They might live in his household, doing chores, assisting him, absorbing his teachings not just during formal lessons, but through constant proximity. Learning isn't egalitarian. The master decides who learns what and when. Secret techniques might be taught only to the most trusted student, the one who will eventually inherit the school and become the next master. This ensures both quality control and the creation of distinct martial lineages, each with its particular techniques and philosophy. Students begin young, often as children. The training is physically demanding, mentally challenging, and emotionally rigorous. Kenjutsu, the art of the sword. The sword is the soul of the samurai, and Kenjutsu sword technique is the central martial art. Training begins not with a steel blade, but with a bokan, a wooden sword, shaped like a katana but made from heavy hardwood, usually oak. The bokan is a weapon in its own right. A skilled practitioner can kill with it, but its primary purpose is training. It teaches proper grip, stance, footwork, and cutting angles without the danger of students accidentally killing each other. Basic posture and grip. The student first learns to stand correctly, feet shoulder width apart, weight distributed evenly, knees slightly bent, ready to move in any direction instantly. The spine is straight, head level, gaze focused but soft, taking in the whole environment, not fixating on any one point. Gripping the sword requires both strength and relaxation. The left hand closer to the guard provides power. The right hand at the pommel provides control and direction. The grip is firm but not tense. Tension slows movement. The arms are extended naturally, the sword held before the body, its point aimed at the opponent's eyes or throat. The basic cuts. There are specific cuts, each with a name and purpose. The most fundamental is the straight downward cut from overhead, descending vertically through the center line, splitting the opponent from crown to groin in theory. This cut is practiced thousands of times, alone, slowly at first to ensure perfect form, then gradually faster, until it becomes instinctive, explosive. The bokken whistling through the air, the student's kyōai spirit shout erupting with the strike. Other cuts. Diagonal cuts from shoulder to opposite hip, horizontal cuts at neck or waist level, rising cuts from low to high, disemboweling, and various thrusts. Each cut must be practiced until the body knows it without thought, until the distinction between the student and the sword disappears, until there is only the cut, pure and complete. Kata. The foundation of Japanese martial arts training is kata, pre-arranged forms, sequences of movements practiced solo or with a partner. Each kata represents a combat scenario. An opponent attacks from a certain angle. You respond in a specific way. The kata might be short 3 or 4 moves, or long dozens of moves, flowing from one technique to the next. The point of kata isn't to memorize a script for actual combat. Real fights are chaotic, unpredictable. The point is to internalize principles: proper distance, Maai, timing Hideyoshi, angles of attack and defense, the flow of energy Kai, the unity of body and weapon. After years of kata practice, these principles become instinctive. In an actual fight, you don't think, now I perform kata number 7. You simply move and your body, trained by 10,000 repetitions, knows what to do. Sparring. Eventually, students progress to sparring. In some schools, this is done with bakan, carefully controlled to avoid injury. In others, especially later in the Edo period, they use shinai bamboo swords, lighter and less dangerous, and wear protective armor, men for the head, do for the torso, coat for the hands, tear for the waist and groin. This becomes modern kendo, the way of the sword, a sport as much as a martial art, with rules, points, competitions. But in traditional training, sparring is serious. There's always risk. Broken bones, concussions, and worse can happen. The student learns to manage fear, to stay calm under pressure, to read an opponent, to exploit openings, to endure pain. Eijutsu, the quick draw, a specialized subset of kenjutsu, is Iaijutsu, later called Iaido, the art of drawing the sword and cutting in a single motion. The samurai keeps his katana sheathed, strapped to his waist. In a sudden confrontation and ambush, a surprise attack, he must draw and cut before the opponent can strike. The movement must be perfect. The left hand stabilizes the scabbard. The right hand draws the sword in a rising arc that simultaneously deflects an incoming attack and cuts the opponent's wrist or arm, then continues into a full cut, then resheaths the sword smoothly, the motion continuous, flowing, beautiful even in its lethality. Iaijutsu is practiced endlessly in kata form, drawing and cutting against imaginary opponents from various positions, sitting, standing, kneeling, turning. The goal is mushin no mind, the state where conscious thought disappears, and the body acts with perfect spontaneity. The master's teaching, the sensei corrects constantly. Your grip is too tight. Your shoulders are raised, tension. Your footwork is sloppy. Your cut has no spirit. The corrections seem endless. Students might practice a single technique for months before the master nods approval. But the master also teaches beyond technique. He tells stories of famous swordsmen, Minamoto Musashi, who killed over 60 men in duels and wrote the Book of 5 Rings about strategy, Sekigahara Bokudan, who killed countless enemies, but in his old age, taught that the true mastery was never having to draw the sword. Yajiu Munenori, sword master to the Tokugawa shoguns, who understood that swordsmanship was ultimately about the mind, not the body. The master explains that the sword is not just a weapon, but a path due. The goal isn't to become a killer, but to become a complete human being, disciplined, courageous, calm, aware. The sword is a mirror, reflecting your inner state. If your mind is disturbed, your technique suffers. If you achieve inner peace, your sword technique becomes effortless, natural. This is the paradox of Japanese martial arts. They're training you to kill, but the ultimate goal is a state of mind where killing becomes unnecessary, where your mere presence, your aura of competence and calm, prevents conflict. The master quotes an old saying, "The greatest swordsman is the one who keeps his sword sheathed." Kujutsu, the way of the bow. Before the sword became iconic, the bow was the primary weapon of the samurai. Mounted archery, in particular, defined early samurai warfare, and Kujutsu, the art of the bow, remained central to training throughout the samurai period. The Japanese bow, the yumi, is unusual, asymmetrical, with the grip about 1/3 up from the bottom, and very long, over 2 meters tall when strung, made from laminated bamboo and wood. Its design evolved to allow use on horseback and to generate tremendous power, despite Japan's lack of strong bowwood, like English yew. Basic archery training. The student begins by learning correct posture, standing sideways to the target, feet shoulder width apart, weight balanced, spine straight. The bow is held in the left hand, arrow nocked. String drawn back with the right hand in a specific way, using not just the arms but the entire body. The draw powered by the back muscles, the expansion of the chest, the opening of the shoulders. The draw is slow, smooth, powerful. The arrow is brought back until the right hand is beside the ear, the bowstring nearly at the cheek. There's a moment of suspension, of perfect stillness, the archer's mind empty, focused only on the target. Then the release, not consciously willing it, but allowing it to happen naturally. The fingers simply opening, the bowstring thrumming, the arrow flying. The arrow's flight is long, visible, tracing an arc through the air, sometimes whistling if it's a kabura, an arrow, with a perforated bulb that produces a distinctive shrieking sound, used in battle to signal or intimidate. The arrow strikes the target, ideally the center, the bull's eye, but in truth, anywhere on the target is acceptable at first. Accuracy comes with time. Kudo, the way of the bow, like swordsmanship, archery evolved into a path of spiritual cultivation. Kudo emphasizes form, ritual, mindfulness. The archer performs a carefully prescribed series of movements, each with a specific name and purpose, drawing and releasing the arrow as part of a meditation, a ceremony. The target almost becomes secondary. What matters is the archer's state of mind, the perfection of form, the unity of spirit and technique. There's a famous Zen story about archery. A master and a student stand in a garden on a moonless night. The master draws his bow and releases an arrow into complete darkness, where a target stands invisibly. The arrow strikes dead center. The student asks, "How did you do that?" "You can't see the target." The master replies, "If you are the target, why do you need to see it?" The point when the distinction between self and other dissolves, when subject and object are one, perfection is natural. Mounted archery Yabusame. The ultimate expression of the samurai's bow skill is Yabusame shooting arrows at targets, while galloping at full speed on horseback. This is a ceremonial performance in the Edo period, but earlier it was a vital combat skill. Picture this: a long, straight track, perhaps 200 meters. Wooden targets on stands spaced along the track. The archer in full armor mounts his horse. At the signal, he spurs the horse to a gallop. As he thunders down the track, he draws an arrow from the quiver, nocks it, draws the bow, all while the horse pounds beneath him and releases, striking the first target. Immediately he's drawing again, striking the second target, then the third. The crowd watches in awe. This requires incredible skill, balance, coordination, and courage. The archer isn't holding the reins, he controls the horse with his legs and shifts of weight. He's managing a large, powerful bow, drawing it to full extension while galloping. The timing must be perfect. The targets are small, the horse is moving, the archer is bouncing, and yet the arrows must hit true. Yabusame is still performed today at Shinto shrines as a ritual demonstration, a link to the samurai past, a prayer for good fortune and protection. Other martial arts: a spear, grappling, and more. While the sword and bow are most iconic, the samurai trained in a range of weapons and techniques. Sujutsu spearmanship, the spear yari, was actually more commonly used in battle than the sword. It's longer, giving reach advantage. It's simpler to master. It's effective against cavalry and in massed formation. The samurai practiced thrusting, sweeping, blocking with the spear. Various types existed: straight blade, cross blade, curved blade, each with specific uses. Naginata. The naginata is a polearm with a curved blade, like a sword on a pole. It's longer than a spear but lighter than you might expect, balanced for quick, sweeping cuts. It was often used by warrior monks, sohei, and samurai women. Defending a household, a woman with a naginata could hold off multiple attackers, the weapon's reach negating the attacker's physical strength advantage. Jujutsu, grappling arts, when weapons are unavailable or impractical, fighting indoors, in a crowd. When your sword breaks, the samurai relies on jujutsu, close quarters combat, grappling, throws, joint locks, strikes. Jujutsu doesn't depend on strength, though it helps, but on leverage, timing, using the opponent's force against him. Imagine two samurai wrestling. One grabs the other's wrist. Instead of pulling away, the defender steps in, off-balancing his opponent, applies a wrist lock that forces him to the ground, then transitions to a chokehold or a pin. Or one throws a punch. The defender doesn't block but redirects, stepping aside, using the attacker's momentum to throw him over his hip, sending him crashing to the floor. Jujutsu later evolved into Judo and Aikido in the modern era, transforming from lethal combat techniques into sports and spiritual disciplines. But in the samurai period, Jujutsu was serious, practical, often brutal. Techniques included eye gouging, strikes to vital points, breaking joints, anything necessary to survive. Hajutsu firearms. After firearms arrived in Japan, 1543, introduced by Portuguese traders, the samurai adapted. Some embraced guns, especially the Tengashima matchlock arquebuses. Others disdained them as dishonorable weapons for peasants, lacking the skill and spirit of traditional arms. But practical daimyo, like Oda Nobunaga, understood their power and organized ashigaru foot soldiers into gun units that revolutionized warfare. More on this later. Samurai trained in loading, aiming, and firing, though this was less emphasized than traditional weapons. Guns were useful but also noisy, slow to reload, inaccurate, and dependent on gunpowder and maintenance. A samurai still needed his sword and spear, the philosophy of training kata, mushin, and zanshin. All this physical training is guided by underlying principles, philosophical concepts that give it depth and meaning. Kata. We've mentioned kata pre-arranged forms. This method seems strange to Westerners who expect sparring and improvisation as the primary training. But kata has profound advantages. First, it allows perfect technique to be preserved and transmitted across generations. Second, it provides a safe framework for practicing dangerous techniques. Third, it teaches principles: distance, timing, rhythm that apply in any situation. Fourth, it's a moving meditation, a way to train the mind as much as the body. A student might perform the same kata thousands of times. Each performance is an opportunity for refinement. You're not just going through motions, you're discovering deeper layers, subtle adjustments, the feeling of perfect execution. Mastery is a journey, not a destination. Mushin no mind. The ultimate goal of training is to achieve a state called mushin no mind, or empty mind. This doesn't mean unconsciousness or stupidity. It means a mind free from distraction, fear, hesitation, or conscious thought. In this state, you perceive and respond instantly, without the delay that conscious deliberation creates. In battle, there's no time to think. He's attacking from the left, so I should block this way, then counter this way. By the time you've thought that, you're dead. Instead, through training, your body learns to respond automatically. You see the attack, and your body is already moving, blocking, countering, all in a fluid, instantaneous action. This is mushin. Achieving this state requires years of training, but also meditation, self-discipline, letting go of ego and fear. It's as much spiritual as physical. The samurai trains not just to make his body strong, but to make his mind clear, empty, responsive. Zanshin, continuing mind. Even after an action is complete, after you've struck, after the opponent is down, you maintain zanshin, a state of alert awareness. You don't relax, celebrate, or become distracted. You remain ready, because the fight may not be over. Perhaps the opponent is feigning, will suddenly attack again. Perhaps there are other enemies nearby. Zanshin is the vigilance that can mean the difference between life and death. In modern martial arts, zanshin is demonstrated even in kata, after the final technique. The practitioner doesn't immediately relax, but holds a ready stance for several moments, eyes still alert, body still coiled, only then bowing to conclude. This concept extends beyond martial arts into daily life. A samurai maintains zanshin, always not paranoid or tense, but aware, present, ready. This alertness is part of what defines the warrior. Training for battle endurance, discipline, and brotherhood. Individual skill is essential, but war requires more. Samurai train for endurance, for operating in groups, for the specific challenges of battle. Physical conditioning: a samurai must be fit. Training includes running, especially up mountains, wearing armor, swimming useful for crossing rivers, escaping ambushes, horseback riding, hours in the saddle, controlling the horse with legs alone while using weapons, and weight training using stones, logs, or actual weapons for repetitive exercises to build strength. Much training happens outdoors, in all weather. You practice in rain, snow, summer heat. You sleep rough, eat sparingly, endure discomfort. This hardens you, prepares you for campaign conditions. Comfort is the enemy. A samurai who's soft, used to ease, will fail when hardship comes. Unit training: in the Sengoku period, when warfare is constant, daimyo organize their samurai into units, squadrons, companies, regiments. These units train together, learning to move in formation, to respond to signals, flags, drums, conch shells, to coordinate attacks, to hold positions under pressure. You practice deploying from column into line, forming squares or circles for defense, charging together, withdrawing in order. You learn the roles: who holds the banner, who leads the charge, who protects the flanks, who reserves are, when to commit them. You drill until the movements are automatic, until your unit operates as a single entity. Battle drills: you practice specific scenarios: ambush, being ambushed, river crossing under fire, night attack, siege assault, castle defense. Each scenario is worked through, mistakes are made and corrected, tactics are refined. You rehearse the sounds and chaos of battle. Warriors beat drums, blow horns, shout war cries. You practice maintaining cohesion and discipline, when everything is noise and confusion, when friends are falling around you, when fear screams at you to run. The bond of brotherhood: through shared hardship, training, and danger, samurai units develop deep bonds. Your comrades become brothers. You trust them with your life. They trust you with theirs. You'll fight harder to protect them, to avoid shaming yourself before them, than you would for abstract concepts like honor or duty. This bond is cultivated deliberately. You eat together, sleep in the same quarters, share stories, jokes, griefs. The camaraderie is powerful, emotionally sustaining. Many samurai writings speak of battles being terrible, but also the time when they felt most alive, most connected to their comrades, most fully themselves. The reality of combat: blood, fear, and resolve. Let's be unflinchingly honest: war is not romantic. The training is preparation for horror. Imagine the moments before battle. Your army is arrayed on a hillside. Across the valley, the enemy army mirrors yours: thousands of men, banners flying, armor glinting, a forest of spears. The air smells of horses, sweat. The incense from a prayer ritual performed at dawn. Your heart pounds. Your mouth is dry. You need to urinate. Fear does this. Your hands tremble slightly. You grip your spear to steady them. The tension is unbearable. You want it to start, to end, to be over. You pray to Buddha, to the kami, to your ancestors. You think of home, your family, your wife's face, your children's voices. You wonder if you'll see them again. You're terrified, but you hide it. Looking around, you see the same fear in others' eyes, but no one speaks of it. To show fear is shameful, so you lock it inside, beneath a mask of calm. The signal comes: drums, a conch shell's blast, a flag dropping. The army moves forward. Thousands of feet begin marching. The pace quickens. Then the charge running, shouting, the war cry tearing from your throat, part battle fury, part terror exercised. The armies collide. The first moments are chaos. Bodies crashing together. The shock of impact. Spears thrusting, swords swinging, men screaming, battle cries, pain, fear, rage. The noise is overwhelming, disorienting. You can't think, only react. Training takes over. You block an incoming spear, thrust your own, feel it hit resistance, hear a cry. Someone crashes into you from the side. You stumble, recover, see an enemy face contorted, terrified, just like yours, and you strike. Time becomes strange. Seconds stretch. Everything happens at once and in slow motion. You're aware of details with bizarre clarity, the pattern of a man's armor cords, the smell of blood and bowel wounds release, that smell, the sound of flies already gathering, the taste of copper in your mouth, you've bitten your tongue without noticing. You fight until you can't anymore, until exhausted, wounded, until the enemy breaks and runs or your side does. If your side breaks, panic grips you. Everyone's running. You run too, terror lending speed, praying an arrow doesn't find your back, that you're not caught by pursuing cavalry. If the enemy breaks, you pursue, cutting down stragglers. This is when most casualties occur, not in the melee, but in the rout and pursuit. A fleeing man can't defend himself. You cut them down from behind, coldly, mechanically, until your arms are too tired to swing your sword. Afterward, if you survived, you sit on the ground, shaking, maybe vomiting. The adrenaline drains away, leaving you hollow. You look at the carnage, bodies everywhere, the wounded crawling or lying still, crying out or silent, the dead already being looted by your own side armor, weapons, anything valuable. You're numb, grateful to be alive, guilty that you're glad when your friends are dead, disturbed by the killing you did, trying not to think about it. That's battle. Not glorious, not honorable in the moment. Just brutal, chaotic, traumatic. The honor comes later in the stories told, the rituals performed, the meaning imposed on the chaos. But in the moment, it's just survival, siege warfare, patience, and desperation. Not all samurai warfare is field battles. Much is sieges, attacking or defending castles. Attacking a castle, you're camped outside the walls. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. You dig trenches, build palisades, settle in. You shoot arrows at defenders on the walls, trying to make them keep their heads down. You might build siege towers or try to tunnel under the walls. You choke off supplies, hoping to starve the defenders into submission. If assault is ordered, you advance under fire. Arrows and rocks rain down. You carry ladders, rush to the walls, lean them up, start climbing while defenders push the ladders away or pour boiling water or shoot down at you. It's terrifying. Many die. But if you reach the top, if you force the defenders back, if you breach the walls or gate, you might take the castle. Once inside, there's often a massacre. In the heat of battle, especially after a long, costly siege, discipline collapses. Soldiers rampage, killing, looting, raping. The samurai leadership tries to control this, with varying success. The code says to fight honorably, but siege warfare brings out the worst. Defending a castle, you're on the walls, looking out at the besieging army. Your supplies are running low. Hunger gnaws. People are dying of disease. Morale erodes. The Lord orders you to hold. You hold. Your duty. Every day you man the walls, repel assaults, shoot at enemies. You watch for signs of tunneling, you can sometimes hear them digging, for siege towers approaching, for the enemy's morale breaking. You endure. That's all you can do. If the castle falls, you face a choice. Surrender, which might mean execution or humiliation, or fight to the death, honorable but fatal, or commit seppuku ritual suicide, maintaining honor. The decision is often made by your lord. You obey. Special training, ninja and espionage. We'll discuss ninja more later, but here, note that some samurai, especially those serving intelligence roles, trained in stealth, infiltration, disguise, and sabotage. This training included moving silently, controlling breath, stepping carefully, wearing soft footwear, climbing walls and trees using claws, ropes, picking locks and defeating security measures, blending into crowds, adopting commoner dress and manners, gathering information through eavesdropping, interrogation, bribery, and using poisons, fire, and other tools for assassination or sabotage. This was shadowy work, often looked down upon as dishonorable by mainstream samurai culture, but also recognized as necessary. Warfare isn't just about honor, it's about winning. Intelligence can be as decisive as courage. Training the mind, Zen, and the warrior spirit. Finally, the deepest level of training is mental and spiritual. Many samurai practiced Zen Buddhism, which taught them to face death without fear, to quiet the mind's chatter, to perceive reality directly without the distortion of desire and ego. They practiced Zazen sitting meditation, as described earlier, sometimes for hours daily. They contemplated koan's paradoxes, designed to short-circuit rational thought and provoke sudden insight. They studied with Zen masters, who might answer questions with nonsense, or hit them with a stick, or remain silent, all to push them toward awakening. The goal: to achieve a state where death is neither feared nor desired, but simply accepted. A samurai who has truly internalized Zen is already dead. He walks through life as a ghost, free from attachment, fear, or regret. This freedom allows perfect action. He can enter battle calmly, fight with total commitment, and if he dies, so be it. If he lives, so be it. Either way, he's at peace. This isn't nihilism or fatalism. It's radical acceptance of reality. Impermanence is the nature of existence. Clinging to life causes suffering. Letting go brings liberation. And paradoxically, the warrior who's let go of life often survives, because he acts without hesitation or fear, while his attachment-ridden opponent falters. This Zen warrior fusion is one of the samurai culture's most distinctive elements, influencing not just warfare but all aspects of life: art, tea ceremony, garden, design, poetry, governance. The samurai ideal is a warrior monk, equally at home on the battlefield and in the meditation hall, embodying both the martial and the spiritual. Bushido, the way of the warrior. The word Bushido, Wushidao, combines three characters: Bu-wu, meaning warrior or military, Shishid meaning man or gentleman, and Dudao meaning way or path. Together, the way of the warrior, a code of conduct, a philosophy, a way of life that defines what it means to be samurai. But here's something crucial: Bushido, as a codified system, is largely a creation of the Edo period. 1603–1868, when the samurai were no longer fighting but needed to justify their continued existence and privileges. During the centuries of actual warfare, Sengoku period, 1467–1603, samurai behavior was much more pragmatic, brutal, self-interested. Honor mattered, yes, but survival and victory mattered more. The romanticized Bushido, the perfect code of the selfless warrior, is partly historical, partly aspiration, partly myth. But myths have power. The idea of Bushido shaped how samurai thought about themselves, guided their behavior, even if imperfectly, and continues to influence Japanese culture today. Let's explore Bushido's core principles, understanding them as ideals that samurai strove toward, even if they didn't always succeed. The 7 virtues of Bushido. Various texts enumerate Bushido's virtues differently, but a common formulation includes 7-1. Giyi, integrity, righteousness. This is the foundation. A samurai must be honest, honorable in all dealings, acting according to what's right, not what's convenient or profitable. You don't lie, cheat, or steal. Your word is absolute. If you make a promise, you keep it, no matter the cost. In practice, this meant that a samurai's oath was binding. If you swore loyalty to a lord, that oath was unbreakable. Betrayal was the ultimate sin, worse than death. A samurai who betrayed his lord became Ronin, a masterless samurai. Effectively an outcast, shamed, often unable to find new service. Righteousness also meant standing up for what's right, protecting the weak, opposing injustice. The samurai saw themselves as defenders of order, of the Confucian hierarchy that kept society stable. A samurai who allowed injustice, especially to those under his protection, failed in his duty. 2. Yuyong, a courage, bravery. Obviously essential. A samurai must be brave, willing to face danger, death, hardship without flinching. Cowardice is unforgivable. You advance in battle even when terrified. You stand your ground when others flee. You face enemies without hesitation. But courage isn't just physical. It's also moral courage, speaking truth to power, admitting mistakes, doing what's right even when it's difficult or dangerous. A samurai who sees his lord making a terrible decision should speak up, respectfully but firmly, even if he risks punishment. Interestingly, Bushido also warns against reckless bravery. Throwing your life away pointlessly isn't courage, it's stupidity. True courage is tempered with wisdom, acting bravely when it matters, not just to show off. 3. Rare benevolence, compassion. This surprises many. A warrior code that emphasizes compassion. But yes, Bushido incorporates Confucian values, and Confucianism emphasizes Ren-jin in Japanese human-heartedness, compassion, caring for others. A samurai should be kind to those below him, generous to the poor, merciful to defeated enemies when possible, caring toward his family and subordinates. Cruelty for its own sake is unworthy. Strength should be used to protect, not to oppress. This creates a tension. The samurai is a warrior, trained to kill, often brutal in war. But he's also supposed to be benevolent, cultured, humane. The ideal is to be fierce in battle, but gentle in peace. A controlled, disciplined man who uses violence only when necessary, reluctantly, without pleasure. In practice, this was often honored in the breach. Many samurai were cruel, arrogant, abusive. But the ideal remained, a standard against which behavior was judged. 4. Reidi, respect, courtesy. Etiquette, proper behavior, respect for others, especially superiors, but also peers and even subordinates. Japanese culture is famously polite, and this stems partly from samurai values. Every action, gesture, word should be correct, measured, appropriate. You bow at the right depth, use the right honorifics, sit in the proper position, speak with proper formality. These aren't empty rituals. They express respect, acknowledge the social order, maintain harmony. A samurai who is rude, crude, disrespectful marks himself as uncultured, barely better than a peasant. The ideal samurai is graceful, elegant, polite even toward enemies, especially before a duel, where elaborate courtesies are exchanged before they try to kill each other. This emphasis on etiquette extended into everything: the tea ceremony, flower arranging, calligraphy, poetry, conversation. Life was ritualized, formalized, beautiful. 5. Makoto, to the honesty, sincerity. Related to integrity, but distinct. You should be honest. Speak the truth, and be sincere in your actions and emotions. A samurai doesn't deceive except enemies in war, where deception is strategy. He doesn't flatter falsely. He doesn't hide his feelings behind a mask, though he controls them. Sincerity, doing things wholeheartedly, without irony or cynicism, was deeply valued. When you perform a tea ceremony, you do it with full attention, sincerity, making it a genuine expression of respect and hospitality. When you write a poem, it should be a sincere expression of your feelings or insights. When you fight, you do so with total commitment. 6. Meiyo, Mingyu, honor, glory. Honor is central. A samurai's honor, his reputation, his name, his family's name is more valuable than his life. You live to maintain and enhance your honor. You die rather than lose it. Honor is earned through courageous deeds, loyal service, maintaining the code. It's lost through cowardice, betrayal, dishonesty, failure in duty. Once lost, honor is nearly impossible to regain. A samurai who loses honor might commit suicide seppuku to cleanse the stain, to die with some shred of dignity, to prevent his shame from tainting his family. This obsession with honor could be oppressive, driving samurai to extreme actions, suicide over minor failures, vendettas lasting generations, refusal to compromise or retreat even when rational. But it also created a culture where people, at least the elite, strove to be better, to live up to high standards, to not betray trust. 7. Chugi, Zhongyi, loyalty, duty. Perhaps the most important virtue. Loyalty to one's lord is absolute, unquestioning, unto death. This is the core of the feudal relationship. The lord protects and provides, the samurai serves and obeys. Everything else flows from this. A samurai's first duty is to his lord, even above family if there's a conflict. The lord comes first, above personal desire, above his own life. If the lord orders you to attack a superior force, you attack. If the lord orders you to commit suicide, you comply. If the lord's enemies kill your son, you set aside grief and continue serving. This loyalty created bonds of incredible strength. A lord could trust his samurai completely, knowing they'd never betray him. Samurai fought harder, endured more, because their identity was bound up in their lord's success. The relationship was personal, emotional, quasi-familial. You didn't just serve a lord, you loved him. In a sense, not romantically, but devotedly. When a lord died, his most loyal retainers might follow him in death. Junshi following in death, committing seppuku to serve him in the afterlife. This was seen as the ultimate expression of loyalty, though later Tokugawa shoguns tried to ban it because it wasted good warriors. The most famous example of loyalty, the 47 Ronin, which we'll discuss more later, samurai who avenged their lord's death, knowing it would cost their lives, because loyalty demanded it. Their story became and remains the ultimate expression of Bushido's values. The reality versus the ideal. We must be honest, samurai often failed to live up to Bushido's ideals. They were human. They betrayed lords for advantage. They lied, stole, raped, killed innocents. They were cowards, cruel, dishonorable. History is full of samurai behaving badly, but the code existed as a standard, an aspiration. A samurai who failed it knew he'd failed. He might feel shame, make amends, or rationalize, but he couldn't claim his behavior was acceptable. The code's existence created a moral framework, however imperfectly followed. And many samurai did strive to live by the code, to embody its virtues. These men and women, samurai women, had their own version of Bushido, emphasizing loyalty, courage, and self-sacrifice, became heroes, legends, models for others. Their stories were told and retold, taught to children, held up as examples. This perpetuated the code, kept it alive, made it real despite all the failures. Jiri and Ninjo duty versus emotion. A central tension in samurai life, Jiri duty, obligation versus Ninjo human feeling, personal emotion. Jiri is what you must do, your duty to your lord, your family, your social role. It's non-negotiable, absolute. Ninjo is what you want to do, follow your heart. Love whom you love, protect those you care about, avoid danger, pursue pleasure. Often, Jiri and Ninjo conflict. Classic example, Your lord orders you to execute a friend who's been accused of treason. Ninjo your friendship, your compassion screams to refuse, to protect your friend. Jiri your duty to your lord, your obligation to obey demands you comply. What do you do? The samurai answer you obey. Jiri trumps ninjo. Duty comes first. You might weep as you kill your friend. You might feel terrible, but you do it, because that's what honor demands. Personal feelings, however legitimate, cannot be allowed to override duty. This creates tragic situations, which Japanese drama kabuki, bunraku puppet theater, later cinema explores endlessly. The protagonist is torn between duty and feeling, knows he must choose duty, and does so, often at tremendous personal cost, killing a loved one, committing suicide, sacrificing his happiness. The tragedy isn't that he makes the wrong choice, but that there is no good choice, only the choice duty demands. Modern audiences often find this incomprehensible or appalling. Why not refuse? Why not follow your heart? But for the samurai, duty is identity. To refuse duty is to cease being samurai, to lose honor, to become nothing. Better to suffer, better even to die, than to betray who you are. This creates a culture of self-suppression, internalized pain, stoicism. Samurai learned from childhood to control emotions, hide suffering, endure silently. Complaining, showing weakness, expressing personal wants, all shameful. You keep your face impassive, your voice calm, your suffering private. Seppuku ritual suicide. Let's confront directly one of Bushido's most striking and disturbing elements, seppuku. Chiful, also called harakiri. Fuchiya, ritual suicide by disembowelment. When and why a samurai committed seppuku, in several situations, to atone for failure, losing a battle, failing in duty, to avoid capture and dishonor after defeat, to protest a lord's unjust action, remonstrating through death, to follow a lord in death junshi, as ordered punishment for a crime better than execution, because it allowed the samurai to die with honor, to cleanse a family's dishonor. Seppuku was voluntary in some cases, compulsory in others. Either way, it was seen as an honorable death, proof of courage and loyalty, a way to restore honor after shame. The process of seppuku was ritualized, formal, witnessed. The samurai, dressed in white, the color of death, kneels on a white cloth spread on the floor or ground. Before him lies a short blade tanto or wakizashi, often wrapped in paper except for the tip, placed on a small stand. Witnesses fellow samurai, friends, perhaps his lord, sit in formal positions, watching. Everything is silent, solemn. The samurai composes a death poem, jisi, a final statement in waka or haiku form, expressing his feelings, insights, or farewells. He recites or writes this poem. Example, holding back the night with increasing brilliance, the summer moon. Or, even if you cut the root, the lotus blossom grows again in mud. The poems are often elusive, understated, drawing on natural imagery, expressing acceptance, sometimes defiance, sometimes peace. Then, the samurai takes up the blade. He opens his robe, exposing his abdomen. He places the blade against his belly, left side, just below the ribs. He takes a breath. And then, in one swift motion, he plunges the blade in and pulls it across his abdomen, left to right, cutting through the abdominal wall, disemboweling himself. The pain is unimaginable. The intestines spill out. Blood flows. But the samurai must not cry out, not flinch, not show pain. That would disgrace the death. He maintains composure, sitting upright, as long as he can. At this moment, the kishakunin, the samurai's assistant, usually a close friend or skilled swordsman, steps forward. His role is to behead the dying man, ending his suffering. This act of mercy is itself ritualized. The kishakunin draws his sword, raises it, and strikes cleanly, severing the head. But ideally, he doesn't completely sever it. Instead, he leaves a small piece of flesh connecting the head to the body. This is called embracing the head daikakubai. This prevents the head from rolling away, considered undignified. The kaishakunin's role is crucial and honorable. To be chosen as kaishakunin shows trust and respect. It requires skill. The beheading must be clean. One stroke and nerve, you're killing your friend, even if to help him die well. After the beheading, the witnesses verify the death, and the body is wrapped for burial. The head might be displayed if the seppuku was judicial punishment for a crime, or returned to the family. The family receives the body, performs funeral rites, and the samurai is buried with honor. Female seppuku jigai samurai women had their own form of ritual suicide. Jigi, typically cutting the throat with a short blade after binding their legs to ensure they're found in a modest position. This might be done to follow a husband in death, to avoid capture and rape, or to restore family honor. It was rarer than male seppuku, but respected as an act of courage. Modern perspective seppuku is profoundly disturbing to modern sensibilities. Suicide is tragedy, not honor. Encouraging people to kill themselves to restore reputation seems barbaric, cruel, a waste of life. From the samurai perspective, though, it made sense. Death was inevitable. Everyone died. What mattered was dying well, with honor, at a time and manner of your choosing, rather than at the enemy's convenience. Seppuku demonstrated courage. It requires incredible willpower to disembowel yourself. Maintained honor. You died rather than live in shame, and served social function, atoning for crimes, protesting injustice, expressing ultimate loyalty. It's important to note that while seppuku happened, it wasn't constant or casual. Most samurai died of old age, disease, or in battle, not by their own hand. Seppuku was reserved for specific situations, and even then, it was often commuted or avoided. But its existence shaped the culture, creating a mindset where death was familiar, accepted, even embraced as a tool for maintaining honor. The 47 Ronin, the ultimate loyalty. No discussion of Bushido is complete without the story of the 47 Ronin Chushingura, the most famous example of loyalty and vengeance in Japanese history. A story that epitomizes samurai values and continues to be told in countless versions even today. The incident in 1701, a daimyo named Asano Naganori was ordered to help organize a reception for an envoy from the emperor. He received instruction from a high-ranking master of ceremonies, Kira Yoshinaka. Kira, arrogant and greedy, expected bribes, which Asano, poor and proud, refused to give. Kira insulted Asano repeatedly. Finally, unable to endure the insults, Asano drew his short sword and attacked Kira in Edo Castle, wounding him. Drawing a weapon inside the castle was a capital crime. Asano was immediately arrested. Within hours, he was ordered to commit seppuku, which he did with dignity. His lands were confiscated. His family was ruined. His approximately 300 retainers became Ronin masterless samurai. Kira, meanwhile, suffered no punishment. He was the victim, after all. But Asano's retainers felt this was unjust. Their lord had been provoked, insulted beyond endurance. Kira should have been punished too, but he wasn't, protected by his position and connections. The conspiracy led by Oishi Yashio, Asano's chief retainer, 47 of the Ronin secretly swore to avenge their lord by killing Kira. But they knew this would be difficult. Kira, fearing revenge, increased his security, hired guards, fortified his mansion, and watched for threats. So the 47 Ronin dispersed, pretending to accept their fate. Oishi himself acted as if he'd given up, sinking into dissipation, frequenting brothels, drinking heavily, behaving disgracefully. Kira's spies reported this, and Kira relaxed, convinced Asano's samurai were cowards or had given up. This went on for nearly 2 years. The Ronin waited, planned, slowly gathered intelligence on Kira's defenses, collected weapons, coordinated. They sacrificed everything: their reputations, their families, their lives as samurai for one goal: avenging their lord. The attack on a snowy night in December 1702. The 47 Ronin struck. They divided into 2 groups, one attacking the front gate of Kira's mansion, the other the back. They fought through Kira's guards, killing or disabling them. They searched the mansion room by room, looking for Kira. They found him hiding in a shed in the courtyard. Oishi dragged him out, identified him by the scar Asano had made, and offered him a chance to die honorably by seppuku. Kira refused, paralyzed by fear, or simply unwilling. So Oishi beheaded him with the same dagger Asano had used to commit seppuku. The 47 Ronin took Kira's head, washed it in a well, and carried it to Sengoku Temple, where Asano was buried. They laid the head before Asano's grave, burned incense, and prayed. Then they turned themselves in to the authorities, waiting to be punished. The judgment: the authorities faced a dilemma. The Ronin had committed murder, broken the peace, violated the shogun's authority, which had judged the original incident closed. They deserved execution. But they'd also acted according to Bushido, avenging their lord, demonstrating perfect loyalty. They were heroes to the public, who saw them as embodying the highest samurai ideals. After much debate, the shogun decided the 47 Ronin would be allowed to commit seppuku rather than be executed as common criminals. This honored their loyalty while still punishing their crime. In February 1703, all 47 performed seppuku with dignity. They were buried at Sengoku Temple beside their lord. The legacy, the story of the 47 Ronin, became instantly legendary and remains so today. It's been adapted into countless plays, films, novels, and artworks. Why does it endure? Because it perfectly embodies the tension at Bushido's heart, the conflict between law and loyalty, between obedience to authority and duty to one's lord, between what the state demands and what honor requires. The Ronin knew they'd die for their revenge, but they did it anyway, because loyalty trumped life itself. They sacrificed everything: reputation, family, future for a principle. Modern Japanese still visit their graves at Sengoku Jidai, leaving offerings, paying respects. The Ronin represents something essential about Japanese cultural identity: the willingness to sacrifice for duty, the priority of the group over the individual, the beauty of loyalty even unto death. Critics point out the story's darker aspects: the glorification of violence and revenge, the waste of 47 lives, the suffering inflicted on the Ronin's families, the feudal values that seem oppressive today. But the story endures because it speaks to something deep: the human longing for loyalty, meaning, and honor in a world that often seems to lack all three. Daily rituals of honor: maintaining reputation. Beyond dramatic moments like seppuku or vendetta, samurai maintained honor through daily behavior, constant attention to reputation, and performance of ritual. Morning devotions: as mentioned earlier, many samurai began each day with prayer and meditation. This wasn't just superstition, it was aligning oneself with principles larger than self, reinforcing discipline and purpose. Personal appearance: a samurai's appearance reflected his honor. You kept your swords polished, your armor maintained, your clothing clean and proper. Slovenliness was shameful, suggesting you didn't respect yourself or your position. Even Ronin, poor and masterless, tried to maintain appearances, mending their clothes, keeping their swords sharp, maintaining the outer forms of status, even when the inner reality was desperation. Speech and manner: you spoke carefully, never rashly. Loud, boisterous behavior was vulgar. You controlled your emotions, never displaying anger except strategically, to intimidate, never showing fear, keeping sadness private. You treated superiors with elaborate respect, peers with courtesy, inferiors with benevolent authority. Keeping promises, your word was sacred. If you said you'd do something, you did it, no matter how inconvenient or costly. Breaking your word destroyed your reputation, made you untrustworthy, essentially ending your career as a samurai. Trust was the currency of feudal society. Once lost, it couldn't be recovered. Avoiding insult honor was fragile. An insult to you, your lord, or your family demanded response. Ignoring an insult marked you as a coward. The response might be a formal challenge to a duel, a complaint to authorities, or in extreme cases, killing the insulter followed by seppuku, or accepting punishment. Insults created cycles of revenge that could span generations, destroying families and clans. Ritual gift-giving samurai exchanged gifts on formal occasions, New Year, when meeting after long absence, when entering or leaving service, to seal agreements. The gifts had to be appropriate to status and occasion, neither too lavish implying you thought the recipient needed charity, nor too meager showing disrespect. Gift-giving was a language of social relationship, requiring skill to navigate. Ceremonies and celebrations reinforcing the order. Samurai life was punctuated by ceremonies, formal events that reinforced hierarchy, loyalty, and identity. Coming of age Genpuku. Around age 15, a boy underwent Genpuku, the ceremony marking his transition to adult samurai status. His boyhood name was replaced with an adult name. He received his first set of swords, real, not practice weapons. His forelocks were shaved in adult style. His lord or a senior samurai stood as sponsor, creating a bond of obligation. From this moment, he was a warrior, accountable, expected to behave with honor, potentially required to fight and die. Marriage ceremonies, samurai marriages, were formal, solemn, primarily about alliance between families rather than the couple's personal feelings. The ceremony involved exchange of sake cups, sansankudo 3 sips from each of 3 cups, creating a bond. Witnesses from both families attended. The couple promised loyalty to each other and to their respective families' interests. New Year's celebrations, the new year which followed the lunar calendar historically, usually late January or early February, was the most important holiday. All debts were settled before the year ended. The house was cleaned thoroughly. New clothes were worn. The family gathered. Samurai visited their lord to offer formal New Year's greetings, renewing their oaths of loyalty. The lord hosted a banquet, distributing gifts, often sake, rice cakes, sometimes money. The celebrations continued for several days, a rare period of relaxation, feasting, games. Tea ceremonies, while not exclusively samurai. The tea ceremony chinoyu, or chado, became central to samurai culture, especially in the Edo period. Elaborate, multi-hour ceremonies were hosted by lords for important retainers or visiting dignitaries. The host demonstrated refinement, the guests showed appreciation and proper etiquette. The ceremony created bonds, displayed status, and provided a context for political discussions conducted obliquely, through aesthetic appreciation and poetic allusion, rather than direct negotiation. Poetry gatherings. Samurai gathered to compose linked verse renga, a collaborative form where participants took turns adding verses to create a longer poem. Or they had poetry contests, composing waka on assigned themes, comparing results. These gatherings demonstrated cultural sophistication, strengthened social networks, and provided entertainment that was intellectually respectable. Unlike cruder pleasures, viewing parties when cherry blossoms bloomed or autumn leaves turned colors, samurai, and everyone else held viewing parties hanami for cherry blossoms, mamajigari for autumn leaves. These weren't casual picnics but formal occasions, with proper seating arrangements, serving of food and drink, composition of poems appropriate to the season, and philosophical discussion about impermanence. Cherry blossoms fall quickly, embodying mono no aware the pathos of transience, a key aesthetic and philosophical concept. The death of a samurai. Funeral rites. When a samurai died, elaborate funeral rites ensured his proper passage to the afterlife and maintained the family's honor. Preparation. The body was washed, dressed in clean white robes, and laid out with the head pointing north. As Buddha's was at his death, a sword was placed beside the body. Incense was burned continuously to mask the smell of decomposition and to create a sacred atmosphere. The wake family, friends, and colleagues gathered for a wake, offering prayers, sharing memories, paying respects. Buddhist priests chanted sutras, helping guide the deceased's spirit toward enlightenment, or at least a favorable rebirth. The chanting continued through the night, the rhythmic, droning recitation creating a hypnotic, solemn atmosphere. The funeral itself was a Buddhist ceremony. The body, placed in a coffin, often in a seated position, was carried in procession to the cremation ground or burial site. Mourners walked behind, dressed in white or black. Priests led prayers. At the cremation ground, the coffin was burned. Cremation was standard for samurai, the flames consuming the body, releasing the spirit. After cremation, the bones were collected using special chopsticks, the origin of the taboo against passing food chopstick to chopstick. As mentioned earlier, this gesture is reserved for funeral rites. The bones were placed in an urn and interred in the family grave at a Buddhist temple. Memorial services. Death didn't end obligations. The family held memorial services at specific intervals: 7 days, 49 days when the spirit was believed to complete its journey through intermediate states toward rebirth, 100 days, first anniversary, third anniversary, and so on. At these services, priests chanted, offerings were made, and the deceased was remembered, their name spoken, ensuring they weren't forgotten. The family maintained the grave, visiting regularly, bringing offerings, incense, flowers, food, sake, praying, and keeping the memory alive. Ancestors were venerated, believed to watch over and protect their descendants. A samurai who died with honor became a guardian spirit. One who died in shame became a source of pollution and bad fortune, requiring special rites to appease. Special deaths, the glorious and the tragic. Not all samurai deaths were equal. Some were especially honorable, others especially tragic. Death in battle, dying in combat, fighting bravely for your lord, was the ideal death. You proved your courage, fulfilled your duty, earned glory for your family name. Your lord might honor your family afterward with increased stipend or position. Your name would be remembered, spoken with respect. Your descendants took pride our ancestor died fighting at serving Lord. This was the good death, the samurai ideal. Death by seppuku, as discussed, ritual suicide to maintain honor, was also respected, demonstrating courage and loyalty, even in extremity. The circumstances mattered. Forced seppuku, as punishment, was less glorious than voluntary seppuku, to atone for failure or protest injustice, but all were preferable to execution or dying as a coward. Death from old age or disease, dying in bed, was acceptable, especially if you'd served honorably throughout your life. You'd earned rest. Your funeral would be respectful, your descendants would honor you, your life would be celebrated. Not as glorious as dying in battle, but respectable, dignified, the conclusion of a life well lived. Dishonorable deaths. Certain deaths brought shame: dying as a coward, fleeing battle, begging for life, dying as a traitor killed while betraying your lord, dying as a criminal executed for theft, murder of an innocent, rape, or dying like a dog murdered ignominiously, killed by surprise or in a shameful context. These deaths polluted the family name, requiring extensive purification rituals and bringing shame that lasted generations. Tragic deaths. Some deaths, while not dishonorable, were tragic, dying young, before achieving anything significant, dying through accident or misfortune, dying in service to a cruel or incompetent lord, or dying in the service of a doomed cause. These deaths were mourned, pitied, seen as the cruel workings of fate unmei, or karma inga. Buddhism taught that suffering was inherent in existence, that all compound things decay, that death comes to all. These teachings provided some comfort, a framework for accepting tragedy. The samurai woman honor and sacrifice. We've focused primarily on male samurai, but women of the samurai class also lived by codes of honor, though their specific duties differed. The wife's role. A samurai's wife managed the household during his absence, which might be months or years during campaigns. She protected the household, which might include defending it physically if attacked. She was expected to be strong, capable, loyal, and if necessary, willing to die rather than be captured or dishonored. Training. Some samurai women trained in martial arts, especially the naginata pole weapon, which was considered particularly suited to women. Its reach and sweeping cuts negated an attacker's strength advantage. Women also learned tantojutsu dagger techniques, and sometimes archery. The training was less intensive than for men, but still significant, enough to allow a woman to defend herself and her family. Jidai. Female ritual suicide. If the household was overrun, if capture and rape were imminent, a samurai woman might choose Jidai, cutting her throat or stabbing her heart. Before doing so, she'd bind her legs together with her obai, the wide belt/sash of the kimono, to ensure she'd be found in a modest position, legs together, not sprawled undignified. This concern for propriety, even in death, exemplifies the extreme self-control and awareness of appearance that pervaded samurai culture. Loyalty and sacrifice. Samurai women were expected to be loyal to their husbands and their husbands' lords. This loyalty sometimes required terrible sacrifices. If a husband was ordered to commit seppuku, his wife might follow him in death, or she might be expected to raise their children and maintain the family's honor alone. If a husband took a concubine, which was socially acceptable, his wife was expected to endure this without complaint, maintaining harmony in the household. Examples of notable samurai women. History records. Several remarkable women. Tomo Gozen, late 12th century. A female samurai who fought in the Genpei War, described in the Tale of the Hike as exceptionally strong and skilled, commanding troops, killing enemies in single combat. While possibly legendary or exaggerated, her story reflects an ideal of female martial prowess. Hojo Masako, 1157-1225, wife of Minamoto no Yoritomo, the first shogun. After his death, she became a powerful political figure, effectively ruling as regent, commanding armies, and maintaining the Kamakura shogunate's power. Known as the nun shogun, she entered a nunnery, but continued wielding political power, demonstrating that women could be warriors, politicians, and power brokers. Takiko Nakano, 1847-1868, who fought in the Boshin War, the civil war that ended the Tokugawa shogunate. She led a unit of female warriors armed with naginata, defending the castle at Izuwakamatsu. She was killed in battle, dying as any samurai would want, fighting to the last. These women and many others demonstrated that courage, loyalty, and martial skill weren't exclusively male. The samurai spirit, the essence of Bushido, could be embodied by anyone, regardless of gender, who embraced its principles. The weight of honor's psychological cost. Living under Bushido's demands took a psychological toll. The constant vigilance, the suppression of emotion, the awareness that any mistake could bring dishonor, the expectation to die, rather than fail, these created immense internal pressure. Many samurai probably suffered from what we'd now call anxiety, depression, or PTSD, though these concepts didn't exist then. The culture didn't allow for psychological weakness. You couldn't admit fear, couldn't seek help, couldn't show vulnerability. You had to maintain the mask, the proper appearance, no matter what turmoil roiled inside. Some samurai turned to alcohol, seeking temporary escape. Others threw themselves into aesthetic pursuits, tea ceremony, poetry, calligraphy, finding solace in beauty, in the perfection of form, in the meditative absorption these activities provided. Zen Buddhism helped many, teaching that suffering arose from attachment, that acceptance brought peace, that death was nothing to fear. But some broke. They became Ronin not through losing their lord, but through abandoning service, unable to bear the pressure. They became bandits, criminals, social outcasts. Or they simply gave up, sinking into despair, perhaps committing suicide not for honor but from hopelessness. These cases were hidden, shameful, not spoken of, but they existed, the shadow side of the glorious samurai ideal. The culture's strength was also its cruelty. It created extraordinary loyalty, discipline, achievement. But it did so at tremendous human cost, demanding that individuals subsume themselves completely to duty, never questioning, never wavering, living and dying according to a script written centuries before they were born. The end of an era. Bushido in decline. By the late Edo period, Bushido was becoming more theory than practice. 2 centuries of peace had transformed samurai from warriors into bureaucrats. Most samurai had never fought, never faced death in battle, never needed to prove their courage. They performed administrative duties, received stipends, maintained social status, but their martial skills atrophied. Yet the ideology of Bushido remained, perhaps more strongly than ever. Samurai studied texts like Hagakure, written in the early 1700s by Yamamoto Tsunetomo, which glorified death and absolute loyalty, claiming the way of the samurai is found in death. They idealized the past, when samurai were real warriors, not desk-bound administrators. This created cognitive dissonance. Samurai, talking constantly about honor, courage, and readiness to die, while living comfortable, safe lives where those virtues were never tested. When the Meiji Restoration came 1868, ending the shogunate and the samurai system, many samurai proved unable or unwilling to adapt. They clung to the old ways, to Bushido's ideals, even as the world changed irrevocably around them. Some samurai rebelled against the Meiji government, fighting hopeless battles to preserve the old order. The most famous example is the Satsuma Rebellion, 1877, led by Seigo Takamori, where traditional samurai armed with swords and spears faced government troops equipped with modern rifles and artillery. The samurai were slaughtered. Seigo committed seppuku on the battlefield. It was Bushido's last stand, glorious and futile, the warrior code meeting modernity and losing. Yet Bushido didn't die. It transformed, was reinterpreted, and was eventually weaponized by Japanese militarism in the early 20th century, with disastrous consequences. Soldiers in World War II were told they were modern samurai, that dying for the emperor was the highest honor, that surrender was unthinkable. Kamikaze pilots flew suicide missions, explicitly framed in terms of Bushido and samurai values. The honor culture that had sustained a warrior class for centuries was twisted into justification for fanaticism and atrocity. After the war, Japan needed to reckon with this legacy. Bushido was discredited, associated with militarism and defeat. But gradually, a more nuanced view emerged. The core values loyalty, courage, discipline, respect, self-cultivation could be separated from the militaristic interpretations. Modern Japanese companies sometimes invoke samurai values loyalty to the company, dedication, group harmony. Martial arts practitioners worldwide study Bushido as part of understanding the art's philosophical foundations. Bushido remains contested, complex, problematic, and yet somehow admirable. Its emphasis on duty over self, on maintaining principles even at tremendous cost, on the cultivation of character, through discipline, these resonate across cultures and eras. Even as we recognize the code's darker aspects, the Shadow Warriors understanding the ninja. In popular imagination, ninjas are superhuman black-clad figures vanishing in smoke, scaling walls with ease, throwing shuriken with deadly accuracy, masters of mystical arts. The reality is more complex, less fantastical but no less fascinating. The term ninja renjo combines nin stealth, endurance, concealment, and yar person. An older term is shinobi from shinobi no mano, one who endures or one who conceals himself. These weren't cartoon assassins but specialists in espionage, sabotage, and unconventional warfare skills necessary in an era of constant conflict, but often looked down upon by the samurai class, who prized open, honorable combat. Origins and history. Ninjas emerged during the same chaotic Sengoku period, 1467-1603, that saw the samurai class reach its peak. As daimyo fought endless wars for territory and survival, they needed intelligence about enemy plans, troop movements, fortifications. They needed saboteurs to burn supply depots, poison wells, create chaos behind enemy lines. They needed assassins to eliminate key opponents when open battle was impractical. Some warriors specialized in these roles. They often came from specific regions, particularly Iga Province and Koga, both in central Japan, mountainous regions with strong local identities and traditions of independence. These areas produced fighters who developed distinctive techniques and organized into clans or schools ryu that trained specialists in covert operations. It's crucial to understand, many ninjas were samurai. The rigid distinction between honorable samurai and dishonorable ninja is partly a later invention. In reality, samurai performed intelligence and sabotage operations when needed. What made someone a ninja was specialization in these techniques, training in specific schools, and often working as a paid operative, rather than as a retainer with feudal obligations. Training and techniques, the real skills. Physical training, ninja training, emphasized different skills than standard samurai training. While samurai focused on direct combat, with swords and spears, ninja trained for infiltration, escape, and survival. Imagine a young man apprenticed to a ninja master in 16th century Iga province. His training would include running and endurance, not just speed but the ability to run for hours, covering vast distances, often at night, over rough terrain. Ninjas needed to deliver messages, scout enemy positions, and escape pursuit. Building endurance meant long runs in the mountains, gradually increasing distance and difficulty. Running with weighted packs, running uphill, running in darkness. Climbing, the ability to scale walls, cliffs, trees. Training included practicing on various surfaces: stone walls, wooden palisades, castle walls. Ninjas used simple tools: kajinawa grappling hooks with rope, ashiko climbing claws strapped to feet, and takaji hand claws. They learned to find handholds, to move silently, to climb quickly in darkness or rain. Swimming, not just basic swimming but swimming in armor, swimming long distances, swimming silently without splashing, holding breath for extended periods, swimming underwater. Japan's rivers, moats, and coasts made water infiltration a valuable skill. Ninjas trained with Mizugumo water, spiders flotation devices strapped to feet, allegedly allowing walking on water, though these probably didn't work as dramatically as legends suggest, and used hollow reeds as breathing tubes when submerged. Stealth and concealment, moving silently, controlling breathing, minimizing presence. Training included walking on different surfaces: gravel, wood floors, leaves without making noise, learning to use shadows, practicing patience remaining motionless for hours, and using camouflage. Ninjas didn't wear black too visible at night, dark blue or gray was better, matching nighttime shadows. They learned to blend into environments, use misdirection, become unremarkable. Disguised ninjas needed to gather intelligence by infiltrating enemy territory, which required convincing disguises. Training included learning various social roles: merchant, monk, entertainer, farmer, each with specific clothing, speech patterns, mannerisms, and background knowledge. A ninja disguised as a traveling merchant needed to know about trade goods, routes, prices, and customs to avoid suspicion. One disguised as a monk needed to know Buddhist sutras, temple protocols, and proper comportment. Combat skills. Despite the emphasis on stealth, ninjas needed fighting ability. They trained in sword, spear, and staff, like samurai, but also specialized weapons: shuriken throwing blades, small, flat blades or spikes, thrown to distract, injure, or poison enemies. Not the dramatic spinning stars of movies, though those existed, but often simple spikes. Ninjas practiced throwing at targets, learning trajectories, distances, and how to throw accurately in darkness or while moving. Kusarigama chain sickle, a sickle with a weighted chain attached. The chain could entangle an opponent's weapon or limbs, while the sickle cut. Difficult to master but effective at surprising opponents. Ninjato, the ninja sword, often described as shorter and straighter than the katana, with a square guard useful as a step when climbing and a longer scabbard, which could be used as a breathing tube underwater or as a listening device against walls. Some historians question whether this specific design existed historically or is a modern invention, but ninjas certainly used swords, often shorter and more utilitarian than samurai blades. Blowguns, poisons, explosives, using whatever worked. Ninjas weren't bound by Bushido's honor codes. If poison won without risk, use poison. If setting a fire created chaos, set fires. Effectiveness mattered more than method. Espionage and intelligence gathering. The ninja's primary value wasn't assassination, which was risky and often failed, but intelligence, finding out enemy plans, strengths, weaknesses. Infiltration. Imagine a ninja mission. Your daimyo is at war with a neighboring lord. You're tasked with entering the enemy castle, determining troop numbers, morale, supply levels, and if possible, the enemy's battle plan. You spend days studying the castle from a distance, noting guard patterns, wall heights, entry points. You pose as a wandering merchant, visiting nearby villages, chatting with locals, learning about the castle's routine. You observe which gates are used, when guards change shifts, where vulnerabilities might exist. On the chosen night, you approach the castle. You're dressed in dark, practical clothing, not the mythical black suit, but clothing that blends into shadows. You carry minimal equipment: climbing claws, a short blade, rope, and basic tools. You wait until the guard passes, then scale the outer wall, moving quickly and silently. You drop into the outer bailey. Inside, you become a shadow. You avoid open spaces, use darkness, move when sounds cover your movement, when wind rustles trees, when dogs bark at something else, You listen at windows, peek through cracks, observe. You see soldiers drilling, count numbers, note the condition of their equipment. You overhear conversations, complaints about food quality, rumors about the Lord's plans. You might spend hours inside, gathering information, then exfiltrate the same way you entered. Or you might hide in an unused building, staying for days, learning more. The patience is excruciating, remaining hidden, barely moving, alert for discovery. When you finally escape and return to your lord, you report everything. This intelligence allows your lord to make informed decisions when to attack, where the enemy is weak, whether they're preparing an offensive or defensive strategy. Good intelligence can win wars without major battles, saving lives and resources. Sabotage and psychological warfare. Ninjas also conducted sabotage, damaging enemy capabilities without direct combat. Setting fires. Fire was devastating in pre-modern Japan, where buildings were mostly wood and paper. A ninja could infiltrate an enemy castle town, set fires in warehouses storing grain, in armories, in stables. The resulting chaos, fire spreading, people fleeing, soldiers trying to extinguish flames, instead of preparing for battle, could be as effective as a military victory. Poisoning. Ninjas reputedly used poisons, though how extensively is debated. Poisoning wells, food supplies, or individuals could create fear and illness among enemies. Rumors of poison, even if false, could make soldiers afraid to eat or drink, damaging morale. Spreading misinformation. Ninjas could pose as defectors, spreading false information about their own side's weakness or fake plans, luring the enemy into traps. Or they could spread rumors among the enemy that their lord was planning to betray them, that they were outnumbered, that a relief force wouldn't come. This psychological warfare eroded morale and trust. Assassination, the most dangerous mission. While less common than espionage or sabotage, ninjas were sometimes hired to assassinate enemy leaders. This was extraordinarily difficult. A daimyo or important general was heavily guarded, rarely alone, sleeping in secure locations with guards posted outside. Reaching the target required infiltrating multiple layers of security. One method: the ninja would hide in the ceiling or beneath the floorboards of a room the target would use, remaining motionless for hours or days, waiting. When the target entered and was vulnerable, sleeping, bathing, in private conversation, the ninja would strike quickly and then attempt to escape, often a suicide mission. Another method: poison delivered through food or drink, which required bribing or impersonating a servant, or a long-range attack using a bow or blowgun, followed by immediate flight. Most assassination attempts failed, resulting in the ninja's capture and execution. Successful assassinations were rare enough to become legendary, but they did happen, and the fear they created was valuable even if actual deaths were few. The ninja clans Iga and Koga. The most famous ninja clans came from Iga and Koga provinces. These mountainous regions had histories of independence, resisting outside control. Local warriors developed guerrilla tactics to defend their autonomy against larger forces. The Iga and Koga ninjas organized into families and schools, each with secret techniques, training methods, and equipment passed from teacher to student. These schools hired out their services to daimyo, operating as specialized contractors. The most famous incident involving Iegeie ninjas in 1581, Oda Nobunaga, the warlord who began Japan's reunification, invaded Iga province, seeking to destroy the ninja stronghold. The Iga warriors resisted using guerrilla tactics, ambushes, raids, vanishing into mountains. Nobunaga responded with overwhelming force, a huge army, scorched earth tactics, systematically destroying villages, killing or capturing the ninjas. The Ija ninjas were largely destroyed, though some escaped, scattering across Japan, continuing their work under other lords. This incident demonstrated both the ninjas' skills, they held off a much larger force for months, and their limitations, they couldn't withstand sustained assault by a determined, well-organized army. The ninja in service to Tokugawa. Ironically, the Tokugawa Shogunate, which ended the Sengoku period and established the Edo period's long peace-employed ninjas, despite officially promoting Bushido's honorable values. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the first Tokugawa shogun, hired Hattori Hanzo, a famous ninja from Iga, and his followers as guards and intelligence operatives. Hanzo served Ieyasu loyally for decades, protecting him from assassination attempts, gathering intelligence on rivals, and conducting covert operations. During the Edo period, the Tokugawa maintained a ninja force, the Oniwaban, garden keepers, nominally garden staff, but actually spies who monitored the daimyo, detected plots, and ensured the shogunate's security. This was somewhat hypocritical. The shogunate officially promoted Bushido's open, honorable values while secretly employing ninjas for dishonorable work but pragmatic. Governance required intelligence and security, regardless of ideological purity. The reality versus the myth. Let's distinguish fact from fiction. Myth ninjas could vanish in a puff of smoke. Reality ninjas used smoke bombs, metsubushi, blinding powders, or smoke creating chemicals to create confusion and cover escapes, but they didn't literally vanish. They used distraction, misdirection, and quick movement to seem to disappear, but this was skill, not magic. Myth: ninjas could walk on water. Reality: the Mizugumo water spiders were flotation devices that might have allowed crossing shallow water or mud, but they didn't enable walking on deep water. Ninjas could swim silently and use underwater approaches, but not walk on water. Myth: ninjas had mystical powers, invisibility, reading minds, etc. Reality: ninjas were trained specialists, using practical techniques, disguise, stealth, knowledge of psychology and human behavior, tools and weapons. The mystical reputation was partly propaganda. Ninjas encouraged fear and rumor, which made their work easier, and partly later embellishment. Myth: ninjas always wore black. Reality: black is actually too visible at night, it creates a silhouette. Ninjas wore dark blue, gray, or brown, matching nighttime shadows or blending into countryside. They also used disguises, farming clothes, merchant attire, monk robes, whatever the situation required. Myth of ninjas and samurai were completely separate, opposing groups. Reality: many ninjas were samurai who specialized in covert operations. Some samurai looked down on ninja work as dishonorable, but many recognized its necessity. The categories overlapped more than the myth suggests. Truth: ninjas were highly trained, disciplined, intelligent operatives who performed dangerous work requiring courage, patience, and skill. They were covert warfare specialists in an era when information and surprise could determine war's outcomes. The decline of the ninja. As the Edo period progressed and peace prevailed, ninjas' services were less needed. Open warfare ended. Covert operations became less common. The Tokugawa shogunate maintained some ninjas for security, but most found other work or faded into obscurity. By the 18th-19th centuries, ninjas became increasingly legendary, their real history obscured by exaggeration and myth. When the Meiji Restoration ended the samurai era, 1868, it also ended the ninja's practical role. They became figures of history, folklore, and eventually, popular culture. In the 20th century, ninjas exploded into global consciousness through movies, TV, anime, and martial arts schools claiming ninja lineages. This created the modern ninja myth, superhuman assassins with mystical powers. This myth is entertaining but bears little resemblance to the historical reality of covert operatives in medieval Japan. Yet the fascination is understandable. Ninjas represent the shadow side of the samurai world: pragmatism versus honor, effectiveness versus aesthetics, survival versus principle. They remind us that history is complex, that high ideals often coexist with dirty reality, that warfare requires not just courage and honor, but also cunning and ruthlessness. The thunder of change firearms arrive in Japan. In 1543, a Chinese ship carrying Portuguese traders was blown off course and landed on Tanegashima, a small island south of Kyushu. The Portuguese carried matchlock arquebuses, early firearms. The Japanese were fascinated. The local daimyo, Takataka, purchased 2 guns and ordered his swordsmiths to copy them. Within months, Japanese craftsmen had successfully reproduced the weapons. Within a year, they were being manufactured in quantity. Within a decade, firearms had spread across Japan, revolutionizing warfare in ways both profound and unexpected. The Tanegashima, Japan's matchlock. The firearm the Japanese adopted was the matchlock arquebus, called Tanegashima after the island where it was introduced. Let's understand this weapon. The mechanism. A matchlock uses a slow-burning match, a rope soaked in saltpeter, burning slowly like incense held in a mechanical clamp. The match is positioned above a pan filled with priming powder. When the trigger is pulled, the clamp drops, bringing the burning match into contact with the priming powder. The powder ignites, sending flame through a touch hole into the main chamber, igniting the main powder charge, which propels the bullet out the barrel. Loading and firing. The process is complex, slow, and requires multiple steps. Measure gunpowder from a powder horn and pour it down the muzzle. Wrap a lead ball in cloth or paper to ensure a tight fit in the barrel. Ram the ball down the barrel with a ramrod, compacting it against the powder. Pour a small amount of finer priming powder into the pan. Light the match if not already lit, and position it in the clamp. Aim. The gun is heavy, inaccurate, and has significant recoil. Pull the trigger, bringing the match to the pan. The gun fires. Hopefully misfires are common. The whole process takes at least 30 seconds, usually longer, especially for inexperienced users, or in rain which wets the powder, making firing impossible. Once fired, the gun must be cleaned before reloading. Black powder residue builds up, eventually making the gun unusable. Advantages: armor piercing. A bullet penetrates armor that stops arrows or spear thrusts. Range effective to about 50 meters, reasonable accuracy to 100 meters, maximum range several hundred meters, though hitting anything at that distance is luck. Intimidation. The noise and smoke are terrifying to those unfamiliar with guns. Training. Teaching someone to use a gun effectively takes weeks. Training a skilled archer or swordsman takes years. Force multiplication. A unit of gunners can hold off a much larger force of traditional warriors if positioned well. Disadvantages: slow rate of fire. An archer can shoot 10-15 arrows per minute. A gunner manages 1-2 shots. Weather dependent. Rain or high humidity makes gunpowder unreliable or useless. Maintenance. Guns require cleaning, repair, and replacement parts. Bows and swords are simpler. Ammunition. Bullets and gunpowder must be manufactured, transported, and stored. Arrows are easier to produce in field conditions. Accuracy. Matchlocks are smoothbore, inaccurate beyond short range. A skilled archer outperforms a gunner at distance. Samurai attitudes. Honor versus effectiveness. The introduction of firearms created ideological tension. Many samurai initially despised guns as dishonorable, weapons for cowards who killed from a distance without skill or courage. The gun negated centuries of training. A peasant with a gun could kill a master swordsman. This was offensive to samurai sensibilities. But pragmatic daimyo recognized firearms' potential. Oda Nobunaga, the great unifier, embraced guns enthusiastically. In the Battle of Nagashino 1575, Nobunaga demonstrated their effectiveness in a way that changed Japanese warfare forever. The Battle of Nagashino 1575, the triumph of the gun. The context Takeda Katsuyori led a powerful army dominated by cavalry samurai mounted on horses, charging with spears and swords, a tactic that had crushed enemies for generations. Takeda's cavalry were feared throughout Japan, considered nearly invincible. Oda Nobunaga and Tokugawa Ieyasu, his ally, faced this cavalry threat at Nagashino Castle, which Takeda was besieging. Nobunaga brought an army of about 38,000 men, including 3,000 gunners equipped with matchlock rifles. Nobunaga's strategy: he positioned his gunners behind wooden palisades, makeshift walls with gaps for shooting, creating a defensive position. The palisades protected the gunners from cavalry charges. Nobunaga organized the gunners into rotating ranks, possibly 3 ranks, though this is debated, allowing continuous fire. The first rank fires, then steps back to reload while the second rank fires, then the third, then back to the first. The battle Takeda's cavalry charged, expecting to break Nobunaga's lines as they had so many others. But the gunners fired in waves. As the first rank fired, horses and riders fell. Before the cavalry could recover, the second rank fired. Then the third. The noise, smoke, and carnage were overwhelming. The horses panicked. The cavalry charge faltered, stalled, broke. Takeda's samurai, brave and determined, charged again and again, trying to break through. Each time, the guns mowed them down. After hours of slaughter, Takeda's army was shattered, his best warriors dead. Takeda himself barely escaped. The significance: Nagashino demonstrated that traditional samurai warfare cavalry charges, individual heroism, swords and spears couldn't withstand massed gunfire. The age of the mounted samurai archer was ending. Warfare was becoming about firepower, tactics, and logistics more than individual skill. This realization spread. Other daimyo adopted firearms. By the late 16th century, Japan had more guns than any nation, and Japanese gun-making quality was among the world's best. The social impact: ashigaru and changing class structure. Firearms changed who could be an effective warrior. Samurai trained from childhood, spending years mastering swordsmanship, archery, riding. But a peasant given a gun and basic training could kill a samurai. This democratized warfare in a sense. Daimyo increasingly relied on ashigaru foot soldiers, commoners armed with spears or guns, wearing simpler armor or none at all, fighting in massed units. Ashigaru weren't samurai, they lacked the status, the training, the cultural background, but they were essential. Battles were increasingly won by ashigaru units, not samurai heroics. This created tension. Samurai identity was bound up in being warriors, the military elite. But ashigaru were doing much of the actual fighting. Samurai adapted by focusing on leadership, strategy, and maintaining superiority through culture, education, and political power rather than purely martial skill. During the Edo period, as warfare ended and peace prevailed, this tension resolved or was suppressed. Samurai became administrators, and ashigaru were disbanded or absorbed into peacetime roles. Guns were increasingly restricted first to samurai and authorized hunters, then eventually controlled so tightly that by the mid-Edo period, Japan had effectively disarmed, with guns becoming rare. This was partly practical: no warfare meant no need for mass armament, and partly ideological. The Tokugawa shogunate wanted to prevent rebellion, and disarmament made rebellion harder. Castles adapt the age of fortification. The spread of firearms forced changes in castle design. Early castles, designed to resist arrows and siege engines, were vulnerable to cannon fire, which arrived shortly after hand-held guns, also introduced by Europeans. Japanese castles evolved, incorporating stone bases, the lower walls built of massive stone blocks, angled to deflect cannonballs, too thick to penetrate easily. Multiple bayless concentric defensive rings, so even if attackers breached the outer wall, they faced another and another. Hidden gun ports. Small openings in walls at various heights, allowing defenders to shoot at attackers from multiple angles without exposure. Kill zones open courtyards where attackers would be exposed to fire from multiple positions, designed to maximize defender advantage. Water defenses moats widened, deepened, made more complex, protecting against both conventional assault and mining. Castles like Osaka, Kumamoto, and Edo, the shogun's castle, became massive, sophisticated fortresses, blending traditional Japanese aesthetics, elegant roofs, white walls with cutting-edge military engineering. The Dutch exception limited Western contact. After firearms introduction, Japan had increasing contact with European traders and missionaries. Portuguese, Spanish, and later Dutch and English traders arrived, seeking profit. Catholic missionaries, Jesuits, Franciscans came seeking converts and were remarkably successful. Hundreds of thousands of Japanese converted to Christianity. But the Tokugawa shogunate grew suspicious of Christianity, seeing it as a potential threat to social order and shogunal authority, and of European colonial ambitions. Spain and Portugal had colonized the Philippines, Southeast Asia, the Americas. In the early 1600s, the shogunate began restricting and then banning Christianity, leading to brutal persecutions. Thousands of Christians executed, forced to apostatize, or driven underground. In the 1630s, the shogunate implemented sakoku, closed country policy. Japanese were forbidden to leave Japan. Most foreigners were expelled. Trade and contact with the outside world were restricted to one Dutch trading post on a tiny artificial island, Dejima, in Nagasaki Harbor, plus limited trade with China and Korea. This isolation lasted over 200 years, until 1853, when American warships forced Japan to open. During sakoku, guns didn't disappear, but their production and use were tightly controlled. Japan turned inward, and samurai culture, no longer challenged by external threats or the chaos of war, became increasingly formal, aesthetic, and philosophical. The paradox: guns and the samurai spirit. Firearms presented a paradox for samurai culture. Guns were effective, necessary, practical, but they violated the aesthetic and spiritual ideals central to Bushido. The sword was sacred, the soul of the samurai, an object of beauty and craftsmanship, wielded with skill accumulated over a lifetime. A gun was utilitarian, crude. Anyone could use it. The samurai resolved this tension by accepting guns' tactical necessity while maintaining the sword's symbolic and spiritual primacy. In peacetime Edo, samurai carried swords, the daisho, mandatory, not guns. Swordsmanship remained central to training. The gun was a tool of war, useful but not defining. The sword was identity, soul, art. This distinction allowed samurai to adopt firearms without losing their cultural essence. They could modernize militarily while preserving tradition spiritually. This pattern, adapting external innovations while maintaining cultural identity, would characterize Japan's later response to Western technology in the Meiji Restoration and beyond. The Tokugawa peace: 2 centuries without war. In 1600, At the Battle of Sekigahara, Tokugawa Ieyasu defeated a coalition of rivals, emerging as Japan's undisputed master. 3 years later, in 1603, the emperor granted him the title of shogun. The Tokugawa shogunate he founded would last until 1868. 265 years of centralized, stable rule, the longest period of peace in Japanese history. For the samurai, this peace was both blessing and curse. No more wars meant no more dying in battle, no more losing lords to defeat, no more devastating campaigns. Families could plan for the future. Sons could expect to inherit their father's positions. Life became predictable, safe. But warriors without war face an existential problem. What is their purpose? How do they justify their privileges, their stipends, their status, their right to wear swords when they're not actually fighting? The Tokugawa addressed this by transforming samurai from warriors into administrators, the ruling bureaucracy of a centralized state. But this transformation was incomplete, uncomfortable, and ultimately unsustainable. The Tokugawa system control and hierarchy. Imagine the Tokugawa political structure as a vast pyramid. At the top, the shogun in Edo, modern Tokyo, the de facto ruler of Japan, the emperor in Kyoto, remained nominally superior but powerless, a sacred figurehead. Below the shogun, about 250 daimyo regional lords, each controlling a domain han, some tiny, some vast. The daimyo were divided into categories: Shinpan Tokugawa family members, most trusted. Feudai daimyo whose ancestors had allied with Tokugawa, before Sekigahara, loyal, often given key positions. Tazama outside daimyo, former enemies or late allies, watched suspiciously, given less authority but sometimes wealthier. Each daimyo governed his domain, collected taxes, administered justice, and maintained order. But the shogunate controlled them through several mechanisms: Sankin Katai alternate attendance. Every daimyo was required to spend half his time in Edo, alternating yearly or sometimes every 2 years with his domain. His family wife, heir remained in Edo permanently as hostages. This system served multiple purposes, kept daimyo from plotting hard to rebel when your family is hostage, drained their finances maintaining residences in both Edo and their domain, traveling with large retinues, created a cosmopolitan culture in Edo daimyo, from across Japan bringing their entourages, spending money, patronizing arts, allowed the shogunate to monitor all daimyo constantly. Surveillance and informers. The shogunate maintained spy networks. Metsuk inspectors who reported on daimyo activities, watching for signs of disloyalty, forbidden fortification of castles, unauthorized alliances, suspicious troop movements. Legal restrictions. Daimyo needed shogunate permission to marry, preventing alliances, to repair castles, which required stone from quarries the shogunate controlled, to build large ships, preventing naval power. The shogunate even limited how many troops each daimyo could maintain, preventing any single domain from becoming a military threat. Redistribution. The shogunate could and did confiscate domains or transfer daimyo to different domains, breaking local power bases, preventing the development of regional loyalties that might challenge central authority. This system created stability, but also stagnation. Political power was frozen. There was no room for ambition, innovation, or change. You were born into your status, and there you stayed. A farmer's son would be a farmer. A samurai's son would be a samurai of the same rank. This rigidity made society predictable, but also increasingly brittle. The samurai as bureaucrat, a difficult transformation. Most samurai in the Edo period never fought in battle. They were born into peace, trained in martial arts as tradition and discipline, but applied those skills only in practice, never in war. Instead, samurai worked as administrators managing village affairs, overseeing tax collection, adjudicating disputes, maintaining records, enforcing laws. The work was often tedious. A young samurai might spend his days copying documents, checking rice yield reports, sitting in on legal hearings where peasants argued about boundary disputes or water rights. This administrative work was essential. Government required it. But it didn't feel glorious. Where were the battles, the heroic deeds, the opportunities to prove courage and loyalty? These existed only in stories, in history, in the increasingly romanticized accounts of the Sengoku period, when samurai were real warriors. Many samurai struggled with this disconnect. They trained daily with sword and spear, perfecting skills they'd never use. They wore their swords, symbols of warrior identity, while shuffling papers. They absorbed Bushido's ideals: courage, loyalty, readiness to die in a context where dying in battle was impossible because there were no battles. Some found fulfillment in the work itself. In the Confucian ideal of the scholar administrator, the cultivated man who governed wisely, maintained social harmony, and embodied virtue through proper conduct. These samurai studied, practiced arts, calligraphy, tea ceremony, poetry, and accepted their role as the ruling elite whose duty was governance, not warfare. Others became increasingly detached, going through the motions of administrative duties while their hearts and minds dwelt in the idealized past, the age of war, when samurai were real. These men drank heavily, gambled, patronized pleasure quarters, seeking escape from the meaninglessness they felt. Still others fell into poverty. Not all samurai were well paid. Lower-ranking samurai might receive stipends, barely sufficient to support a family, leaving them scrambling for extra work teaching martial arts, copying documents, even doing manual labor shameful for a samurai. Some Ronin masterless samurai lived in dire poverty, unable to find service, legally forbidden from other occupations, clinging to their swords and their pride while starving. The culture of Edo: urban sophistication and hidden tensions. Edo grew explosively, becoming one of the world's largest cities by 1700. Its population was over 1 million, larger than London or Paris. The city was divided by class: the Yamanote High City, where daimyo mansions and samurai residences clustered, spacious compounds with gardens, orderly, quiet. The Shitamachi Low City, where merchants, artisans, laborers lived, dense, noisy, vibrant. This was the heart of urban culture: kabuki theaters, pleasure quarters, yoshiwara, the licensed district, bath houses, restaurants, shops, and constant activity. The official Confucian hierarchy placed samurai at the top, followed by farmers who produced food, the basis of the economy, then artisans who made goods, and finally merchants who merely moved goods around and were seen as parasitic. But in reality, wealth didn't follow this hierarchy. Many merchants became enormously rich, far wealthier than most samurai. Yet officially, they remained low status, couldn't wear swords, had to show deference to even poor samurai. This created resentment, and also a vibrant merchant culture, Chonin culture, townspeople's culture that celebrated money, pleasure, wit, and sophistication. Kabuki theater, ukiyo-e woodblock prints, popular novels, tea houses, fashion all flourished in the merchant quarters. The culture was urban, commercial, hedonistic within limits, and increasingly influential, even though officially despised by samurai moralists. Samurai were supposed to disdain money, remain above commerce, embody austerity and martial values. But many were drawn to Chonin culture, frequented the pleasure quarters, watched kabuki officially forbidden to samurai, but many went anyway, accumulated debts to merchants whom they officially outranked, but practically depended on and felt increasingly hypocritical, maintaining a facade of samurai values while living bourgeois lives. The intellectual life, Neo-Confucianism, and national learning. Intellectually, the Edo period was rich, with several competing schools of thought. Neo-Confucianism, especially the Juzai school, was the shogunate's official ideology. It emphasized loyalty to superiors, which legitimized the shogunate and the entire feudal hierarchy. The importance of education and moral cultivation. Social harmony through everyone accepting their proper place. Filial piety, respect for parents and ancestors. The ruler's duty to govern virtuously. Samurai studied Confucian classics, learning to read classical Chinese, memorizing texts, and discussing ethical principles. This study reinforced social stability. If everyone accepted their place in the hierarchy and fulfilled their role virtuously, society would function harmoniously. But Neo-Confucianism also contained seeds of critique. If rulers must be virtuous and govern wisely, what if they don't? What if a shogun or daimyo is corrupt, incompetent, or oppressive? Confucianism allowed, even required, moral criticism of rulers. Some samurai scholars became critics, pointing out the shogunate's failures, the suffering of peasants under heavy taxation, the corruption of officials. These critics had to be careful. Overt opposition could mean imprisonment or execution, but they kept intellectual life from being entirely subservient. Kokuraku national learning was a movement that rejected Chinese influence, arguing that Japan should return to its own ancient traditions. Studying Japanese classical texts, like the Kojiki and Manyoshu, venerating the emperor, not the shogun, and reviving Shinto as Japan's true religion. Kokugaku was implicitly anti-shogunate. If the emperor is supreme, the shogun is a usurper, and nationalist Japan is unique, divine, superior to China. This movement would later contribute to the Meiji Restoration's ideology. Rangaku Dutch learning emerged because the Dutch allowed limited trade at Nagasaki, brought books about Western science, medicine, technology. Some Japanese scholars learned Dutch, translated these books, and became fascinated by Western knowledge. They studied anatomy, discovering that Western anatomical texts were more accurate than Chinese ones, astronomy, engineering, chemistry. Rangaku scholars introduced new ideas, techniques, and a sense that the outside world had knowledge Japan lacked. This would eventually help Japan modernize rapidly in the Meiji period. These intellectual currents created debate, tension, and gradual shifts in worldview, even as the political system remained frozen. The peasant revolts, cracks in the foundation. While samurai struggled with their identity, peasants suffered under heavy taxation. The shogunate and daimyo squeezed villages for rice, which was the primary tax and the currency in which samurai stipends were paid. Taxes might take 50%, 60%, even 70% of a harvest, leaving peasants with barely enough to survive. When harvests failed due to drought, flood, typhoon, or pest infestation, peasants starved. Officials rarely reduced taxes to account for failed harvests, needing the revenue to pay samurai stipends and maintain their own lifestyles. Peasants had no political power. They were forbidden to own weapons, though they sometimes hid them. They were tied to their villages, needing permission to travel. They were at the mercy of officials, who often treated them harshly. But peasants occasionally rebelled. Edo period Japan saw hundreds of peasant uprisings, Iksi villages refusing to pay taxes, marching to the daimyo's castle to present petitions, sometimes attacking officials, burning records, seizing grain stores. These revolts were mostly non-violent, desperate appeals for relief. Peasants would kneel before the castle, presenting petitions, begging for lower taxes, return of confiscated land, punishment of corrupt officials. Sometimes the daimyo granted concessions. Often, he didn't. If revolts became violent, samurai suppressed them brutally, killing ringleaders, punishing entire villages. But the frequency of revolts indicated systemic problems. The Tokugawa system worked well when harvests were good and taxes bearable. When economic stress increased as it did in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the system's rigidity prevented adaptation, and tensions grew. The coming of the West, the Black Ships, 1853. In July 1853, 4 American warships commanded by Commodore Matthew Perry sailed into Edo Bay, their cannons pointed at the shogun's capital. Japan, which had isolated itself for over 2 centuries, was confronted with a demand: open your ports to trade, or face military attack. Perry delivered a letter from President Fillmore, demanding trade relations, then departed, promising to return the following year for an answer. The shogunate was shocked, humiliated, thrown into crisis. Japan's isolation had been policy, not inevitability. But the world had changed. The Industrial Revolution had transformed the West. Western nations had steamships, modern artillery, rifles, industrial production. Japan had wooden ships, matchlocks, pre-industrial technology. The gap was vast. Moreover, Japan had watched from afar as China, once powerful, was humiliated in the Opium Wars 1839 and 1842, 1856, 1860 by Britain and France, forced to open ports, cede territory, pay indemnities. Japan feared the same fate. The shogunate deliberated. Some officials advocated resistance, refused the American demands, fight if necessary, die honorably rather than submit. Others argued for pragmatism. Japan couldn't win a war against Western powers. Opening the country, learning from the West, and modernizing were the only ways to preserve independence. When Perry returned in 1854 with more ships and more pressure, the shogunate capitulated, signing the Convention of Kanagawa, opening 2 ports to American ships, and allowing a U.S. consul. Soon, similar treaties were signed with Britain, France, Russia, and the Netherlands. Japan was forcibly opened. For the samurai, this was devastating. The shogunate's primary duty was protecting Japan, defending against foreign threats. It had failed. Worse, the unequal treaties' extraterritoriality, fixed tariffs were humiliating, treating Japan as inferior. The shogunate's prestige collapsed. The Bakumatsu, the Twilight Years, 1853-1868. The final 15 years of the Tokugawa shogunate Bakumatsu, end of the Bakufu, were chaotic, violent, confused, a period of political crisis, assassinations, civil conflict, and rapid change. The anti-foreign movement, many samurai, especially in Tozama domains which had always resented Tokugawa control, adopted the slogan "Revere the Emperor, expel the barbarians, Sano Joy." They argued the shogunate had betrayed Japan by opening to foreigners, and the emperor, who had been powerless for centuries, should be restored as the true ruler to cleanse Japan of foreign pollution. Young samurai shishi, men of spirit, assassinated foreign traders, attacked foreign legations, and murdered shogunate officials who collaborated with foreigners. The violence was driven by a mix of genuine xenophobia, political opportunism, using anti-foreign sentiment to attack the shogunate, and desperation. The samurai's world was ending, and violence was a way to assert relevance. The domains modernize. Ironically, the Tozama domains most opposed to the shogunate began adopting Western technology rapidly. Satsuma in southern Kyushu and Chishiju in western Honshu purchased Western ships, guns, training, and advisors. They sent students to study in Britain and America. They modernized their militaries, creating units armed with rifles, trained in Western tactics. These domains weren't pro-Western, they were pragmatic. To defeat the shogunate and restore imperial rule, they needed military strength. Western technology provided it. They'd embrace the West to overthrow the shogunate. Then they hoped to use that power to expel the West. The plan was contradictory, but desperation breeds contradiction. The shogunate's reforms, the shogunate, too, tried to modernize. It hired French advisors, built shipyards and arsenals, created modern military units, sent delegations to study Western government and technology. But these reforms were too little, too late, and hampered by internal resistance from conservative samurai who saw modernization as betrayal of tradition. Civil conflict in 1863-1864. Choshu domain attacked Kyoto, trying to kidnap the emperor. Shogunate forces, aided by Satsuma, defeated Choshu. But then Satsuma and Choshu secretly allied 1866, creating a powerful anti-shogunate coalition. When the shogun died 1866 and his successor proved weak, the balance shifted decisively. In 1867, the new shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, resigned, hoping to avoid civil war by voluntarily returning power to the emperor. But anti-shogunate forces wanted more complete destruction of the Tokugawa system. In early 1868, they moved troops to Kyoto, seized the palace, and declared an imperial restoration. The emperor, a teenager, Meiji, would rule directly. The shogunate was abolished. Yoshinobu initially considered resisting, but was outmaneuvered, his own former allies abandoning him. A brief civil war, Bushido War, 1868-1869, followed, with shogunate loyalists fighting desperately but futilely. The the Satsuma Choshu forces had superior weapons, better organization, and momentum. By 1869, all resistance was crushed. The samurai class, which had ruled Japan for nearly 700 years, was about to disappear. The Meiji Restoration, the samurai abolished 1868-1876. The Meiji Restoration, named for the emperor, though actual power lay with oligarchs from Satsuma and Choshu, transformed Japan with breathtaking speed. The new government's slogan enriched the nation, strengthen the military Fukoku Kyohei. Japan would modernize, westernize, industrialize, and become a power capable of resisting Western imperialism. For the samurai, this meant the end. 1869, the domains Han were abolished, replaced by prefectures under centralized government control. Daimyo lost their autonomy, became governors, then were pensioned off. The feudal system, in place for centuries, vanished almost overnight. 1871, the stipend system was reformed. Samurai no longer received rice stipends, which had become financially unsustainable, but cash payments. But these payments were often reduced, and many samurai found themselves with income insufficient to maintain their status. 1873, universal conscription was introduced. All young men, regardless of class, were required to serve in the military. The army would be modern, armed with rifles, trained in Western tactics, no room for traditional samurai warfare. The samurai's monopoly on military service, central to their identity, was eliminated. 1876, the government issued two devastating decrees. The Hideyoshi Sword Abolition Edict. It was now illegal for anyone, except police and military, to wear swords in public. The Daisho, the soul of the samurai, could no longer be worn. Imagine the psychological impact: a samurai, whose identity was bound up in his swords, suddenly forbidden to wear them. It was symbolic castration, the final destruction of samurai identity. The Kinroku Shobun stipend commutation. Remaining samurai stipends were converted to government bonds, paying out over years but ultimately ending the financial support that had sustained the samurai class. The samurai, as a legal class, no longer existed. Former samurai were now commoners, though initially called shizoku, former samurai, to distinguish them. They could pursue any occupation, business, farming, trades previously forbidden to them. But they lost their privileges, stipends, swords, status. The samurai's response: despair, adaptation, rebellion. How did samurai respond to their world's destruction? Adaptation. Some samurai adapted successfully. They entered business, founding companies that would become giants: Mitsubishi, Sumitomo. They became educators, bureaucrats, military officers. The new army needed trained leaders, and former samurai filled many positions. They used their education, discipline, and connections to succeed in the new Japan. Despair. Others couldn't adapt. They lacked business skills, had no capital, despised commerce as beneath them. They tried and failed, falling into poverty, drinking, despair. Some committed suicide, unable to bear the loss of meaning, status, identity. Their entire lives had prepared them for a role that no longer existed. Rebellion. Some samurai rebelled, fighting to restore the old order, or at least die honorably, rather than live in shame. The largest rebellion was the Satsuma Rebellion, 1877, led by Seigo Takamori, one of the Meiji Restoration's architects. Seigo had helped overthrow the shogunate, but became disillusioned with the new government's policies, especially the abolition of the samurai class. He withdrew to Kagoshima, Satsuma's capital, where he founded schools teaching traditional samurai values. When the government tried to confiscate weapons from samurai in Kagoshima, Seigo's students revolted, and Seigo reluctantly led them. About 40,000 samurai and supporters rose in rebellion, armed with swords, spears, and some modern weapons, facing a government army of conscript soldiers armed with rifles, artillery, supported by modern logistics. The rebellion was doomed from the start. The samurai were outnumbered, outgunned, cut off from supplies. But they fought with desperate courage, winning some early battles through sheer valor, but gradually being worn down. The siege of Kumamoto Castle saw samurai warriors charging government artillery and rifle positions, dying in waves, unwilling to retreat, embodying Bushido's values, even as those values led to their slaughter. By September 1877, the rebellion was crushed. Seigo, wounded and surrounded, committed seppuku on a hillside as his last followers died around him. His head was taken as proof of death. The rebellion was over. The Satsuma Rebellion was the samurai's last stand, a final, futile assertion of the old values. The warrior code, the refusal to submit to a modernizing world that had no place for them. Seigo became a tragic hero, symbol of the samurai's noble but doomed resistance to change. The government eventually pardoned him posthumously, recognizing his integrity, even as it crushed his cause. After Satsuma, there were no more significant rebellions. The samurai accepted, resigned themselves, mourned privately, and tried to find new places in a new Japan. The samurai in modern memory, nostalgia, and myth. The samurai disappeared, but their legacy endured, transformed into myth, nostalgia, national symbol. Late Meiji Taisho, early Showa, 1880s, 1930s, Japan modernized rapidly, becoming an industrial and military power. Within 50 years of the Meiji Restoration, Japan had defeated China, 1894, 1895, and Russia, 1904, 1905, annexed Korea, 1910, and become a major player on the world stage. But modernization brought anxiety, loss of traditional culture, adoption of Western ways, the sense that Japan was losing its soul. Samurai, now safely in the past, became symbols of pure, authentic Japan, the embodiment of loyalty, courage, discipline, selflessness. Their myths were polished, their flaws forgotten, their virtues exaggerated. Writers, filmmakers, and artists romanticized samurai. Stories emphasized their honor, their adherence to Bushido, their aesthetic sensibility. The samurai became cultural icons, representing what Japan had been, what perhaps it should still aspire to be. World War II, 1937, 1945. The Japanese military, seeking to motivate soldiers, invoked Bushido, telling soldiers they were modern samurai, that dying for the emperor was the highest honor, that surrender was shameful. This ideology drove the military's fanaticism, the refusal to surrender, the kamikaze attacks, the brutal treatment of enemies and prisoners. After the war, this association of Bushido with militarism and atrocity tainted the samurai legacy. Bushido was seen as having contributed to Japan's wartime excesses, its inability to accept defeat, its willingness to sacrifice millions of lives for abstract notions of honor. Post-war to present. In post-war Japan, attitudes towards samurai are complex, mixed. Some see them as symbols of Japan's unique culture, worthy of respect and preservation. Others see them as emblems of a feudal, oppressive past, their values incompatible with democracy and modernity. Samurai remain enormously popular in media, films, television, anime, manga, video games. Directors like Kurosawa, Akira, Seven Samurai, Rashomon, Yojimbo created cinematic masterpieces exploring samurai themes: honor, duty, violence, mortality. These films influenced global cinema. Hollywood remade many as westerns. Star Wars drew heavily from Kurosawa. Internationally, samurai are icons. Non-Japanese are fascinated by their code, their swords, their aesthetics. Martial arts schools worldwide teach Japanese styles, invoking samurai lineages, real or imagined. Bushido's principles are discussed in business books, self-help texts, military training. But this global samurai fascination is often shallow, ignoring the historical complexity, the brutality, the oppression, the fact that samurai ruled a deeply hierarchical, often cruel society. The romanticized samurai, noble, honorable, selfless, is partly fiction, a myth created by nostalgia and selective memory. The legacy: what the samurai left behind. Despite the complications, the samurai left genuine legacies: cultural, the arts they patronized, tea ceremony, ikebana, no theater, ink painting, calligraphy, poetry remained central to Japanese culture. The aesthetic principles they embodied: simplicity, restraint, awareness of impermanence, attention to detail shaped Japanese design, architecture, and sensibility. Ethical Bushido's values: loyalty, discipline, courage, respect, self-cultivation influenced modern Japanese ethics. The emphasis on duty, group harmony, and perseverance can be seen in Japan's corporate culture, educational system, and social norms. These values have positive and negative aspects. They create social cohesion but also conformity, diligence but also overwork, but they're undeniably rooted in samurai traditions. Japanese martial arts: judo, kendo, aikido, karate. Though karate originated in Okinawa, not from samurai, preserve and transmit samurai fighting techniques, adapted and formalized. These arts spread worldwide, influencing global martial arts culture, promoting not just combat effectiveness, but philosophical and spiritual development. Symbolic: the samurai represent certain universal human concerns: honor, mortality, meaning. Duty vises desire, the quest for perfection. Their stories resonate because they grapple with timeless questions. How do we live with integrity? How do we face death? What do we owe others? What is worth sacrificing for? These are human questions, not just Japanese ones. And the samurai's struggle to answer them speaks across time and culture. The final meditation, impermanence and memory. Let us end where we began, with awareness of impermanence, mono, no aware, the pathos of things passing. The samurai, who built their culture around this Buddhist insight, are themselves gone, part of history, remembered but unreturnable. Their castles stand, some restored, some ruined, silent stones testifying to vanished power. Their swords are in museums, displayed behind glass, no longer worn, no longer drawn in anger. Their descendants live ordinary lives, aware of their ancestry but shaped by modernity, not feudalism. Yet something remains. Not the samurai as they were complicated, often brutal, products of their specific time and place, but the samurai as symbol, as aspiration, as a reminder that humans can, if they choose, live by codes, can cultivate discipline and beauty, can face death with courage, can strive for a kind of perfection even knowing it's unattainable. The cherry blossoms fall. They were beautiful, and they are gone. Their falling is part of their beauty. The samurai fell. Their era ended. But their memory persists, and in that memory, we find something valuable, the example of people who tried, however imperfectly, to live with honor, to serve with loyalty, to create beauty in a violent world, to accept death as part of life. As you rest now, drifting deeper into sleep, let the samurai fade like figures in mist. Let their stories settle into your consciousness like sediment, present but not disturbing, enriching your dreams, or perhaps influencing your waking life in ways you won't consciously notice. The samurai are gone. The age of warriors has ended, in Japan and everywhere. We live in a different world, with different challenges, different values. But the questions the samurai faced: how to live with integrity, how to balance duty and desire, how to face mortality, how to find meaning in service to something larger than ourselves, these questions remain. May you rest well. May your sleep be deep and restful. And when you wake, may you carry some small ember from the samurai's fire, not their violence, not their cruelty, but their dedication, their discipline, their awareness that life is short, precious, and worthy of being lived with intention and beauty. The temple bell sounds. The dojo is empty. The sword rests in its stand. The warrior sleeps. And in sleep, perhaps we find what the samurai sought in life, a moment of perfect peace. Free from fear, free from striving, simply resting in the eternal now, the eternal cycle: training, service, and acceptance. In the darkness before dawn, a samurai awakens. The room is cold. He rises without complaint. Cold is simply cold, neither good nor bad, simply what is. He folds his futon with precise movements, every fold correct, every corner aligned. This is not obsession, this is mindfulness. This is the understanding that how you do anything is how you do everything, that folding a futon correctly prepares you for everything else, that small acts contain all acts, that the mundane and the sacred are not separate. He dresses slowly, layer upon layer, silk against skin. The weight of clothing familiar, the tie of his hakama, the placement of his swords. These are rituals, not empty rituals, but laden with meaning. Each gesture connects him to his ancestors, to centuries of samurai before him. All dressing just this way, all feeling the same weight of the swords at their side, all carrying the same duty. Outside, the sky is barely lightening, stars fading, not yet day but no longer night, the between time, the liminal moment, when anything is possible, when the world holds its breath. He practices kata in the garden, slowly, each movement complete before the next begins. Draw, cut, sheathe. The body knows these movements, has performed them. 10,000 times will perform them. 10,000 more until body and blade are one, until there is no thinking, only being. The sword cuts the air offers no resistance, but the practice continues, because practice is not preparation for something else. Practice is itself the point, the cultivation of skill, the refinement of spirit, the endless pursuit of perfection that can never be achieved, but must always be sought. The morning progresses, meditation, calligraphy. Breakfast eaten in silence. The rice warm, the tea bitter, the moment complete in itself. Then duty calls, whether that duty is administration, filing documents, judging disputes, standing guard, or in another time, in another life, marching to war. The duty is the same, it is what must be done, what your position requires, what honor demands. And always beneath everything, the awareness of death. Not morbid, not fearful, simply clear death. Will come not today, perhaps, but someday, perhaps soon, perhaps not, it doesn't matter, when what matters is being ready, being at peace, having lived in such a way that when death comes you can meet it calmly, without regret, without fear. This is what the training cultivates, not just skill with weapons, but readiness for death, acceptance of death, the understanding that life and death are not opposites, but parts of a whole, that by accepting death, by being willing to die at any moment, you become truly free to live. The nature of loyalty, service, and sacrifice. A samurai serves his lord. This is the foundation, the reason for everything. But what does service mean? It means rising when your lord needs you, whether you want to or not, whether it's convenient or not, when your lord commands you, obey. It means setting aside personal desire, what you want, who you love, where you wish to go. None of this matters. What matters is what your lord requires. It means being willing to die, not metaphorically, not theoretically, but actually. If your lord is attacked, you stand between him and the attacker. If your lord is besieged, you fight until the end. If your lord orders you to commit seppuku, you draw your blade and open your belly. This sounds harsh, cruel. Even from a modern perspective it is. But remember, this loyalty ran both ways. The Lord protected, provided, cared for his retainers and their families. The relationship was reciprocal, based on mutual obligation, trust, something deeper than contract. And this loyalty created a kind of freedom, a paradoxical freedom. By giving up personal choice, by accepting that your life was not your own, you became free from the burden of deciding, from the anxiety of choice, from the paralyzing freedom of modernity. You knew what you had to do always, and that knowing brought peace. The stories of perfect loyalty move us still. The 47 Ronin, avenging their lord, knowing they would die, but doing it anyway, because loyalty demanded it, because their identity as samurai, as their lord's men, required it. Or Kusunoki Masashige, a general serving emperor. Dago ordered to defend a castle against overwhelming odds. Knowing the battle was hopeless, but obeying, fighting to the end, committing seppuku, rather than surrender. His last words: "Would that I had 7 lives to give for my emperor." These stories can seem fanatical, and perhaps they are, but they also express something profound: the human capacity for transcending self-interest, for choosing principle over survival, for being more than just individual desire, for connecting to something larger. A lord, a cause, an ideal. This is what the samurai sought, and sometimes found in their service: a meaning beyond themselves, a way to be more than mortal, more than small, through absolute loyalty, through perfect service, through the willingness to die. They achieved a kind of immortality, not personal immortality, but the immortality of the name, the family, the lord, the realm they served. The sword, object and symbol. Imagine holding a katana, feel its weight, not heavy but present, substantial. The scabbard is smooth lacquered wood, perhaps decorated, perhaps plain, the hilt wrapped in cloth. The pattern precise, the diamonds of the wrap gripping your palm. You draw slowly, the blade slides from the scabbard, silent, smooth. The motion controlled, the blade emerges. And it's beautiful, the steel, folded thousands of times layer upon layer, creating a subtle pattern, the hem and the temper line, where hard edge meets softer spine, a wavy line along the blade. Unique to each sword, the steel's fingerprint. The blade catches light. These stories can seem fanatical, and perhaps they are, but they also express something profound, the human capacity for transcending self-interest, for choosing principle over survival, for being more than just individual desire, for connecting to something larger. A lord, a cause, an ideal. This is what the samurai sought, and sometimes found in their service, a meaning beyond themselves, a way to be more than mortal, more than small, through absolute loyalty, through perfect service, through the willingness to die. They achieved a kind of immortality, not personal immortality, but the immortality of the name. The family, the lord, the realm they served. The sword, object and symbol. Imagine holding a katana, feel its weight, not heavy but present, substantial. The scabbard is smooth, lacquered wood, perhaps decorated, perhaps plain, the hilt wrapped in cloth. The pattern precise, the diamonds of the wrap gripping your palm. You draw slowly, the blade slides from the scabbard, silent, smooth. The motion controlled, the blade emerges. And it's beautiful, the steel, folded thousands of times layer upon layer, creating a subtle pattern, the hem and the temper line, where hard edge meets softer spine, a wavy line along the blade. Unique to each sword, the steel's fingerprint. The blade catches light, gleams sharp beyond imagination, an edge measured in molecules, capable of cutting bone with no more resistance than cutting water. But it's not just a weapon, it's art, craftsmanship. The smith who made it worked for months, heating, folding, hammering, shaping, hardening, tempering, polishing, pouring himself into the steel, creating not just a tool, but an object of reverence. The sword has a name, perhaps the great swords, did Onamaru Daojijiri. Miramasa, names like poetry, carrying history, stories of battles. One masters served, lives taken. The sword is called the soul of the samurai. Why? Because the sword embodies the samurai's values. It is perfectly functional, every aspect designed for one purpose, to cut, to kill. There is no excess, no decoration that doesn't serve function. This is martial efficiency, the warrior's aesthetic. But within that functionality, beauty, the curve of the blade is beautiful. The pattern of the steel is beautiful. The sword hanging in its stand is beautiful, deadly, and beautiful together, not separate. The sword is also commitment. When drawn, it must draw blood. Even if that blood is your own, you don't draw your sword casually as threat, as display. You draw it only when you intend to use it, and when drawn, someone dies. This teaches restraint, discipline, the sword at your side, always ready, but also always sheathed. The true master is the one who never draws, who resolves conflict without violence, but who could, if he must, in an instant. The sword is inheritance passed from father to son, from master to student, across generations, carrying memory, connecting past and present. When you hold a 400-year-old sword, sold, an object your ancestors held, you connect to them across time. The same grip, the same weight, the same purpose. And finally, the sword is mortality, it kills, but it also serves as the instrument of seppuku, the means by which a samurai ends. Or consider a different garden. A tea garden, the path approaching the tea house, irregular stepping stones requiring attention, you must watch your feet. Look down, this automatically humbles. You prepares you for the ceremony. The path curves, never straight, winding between plantings. Bamboo, moss, small stones, each chosen for texture, color, shape. Nothing grand, but everything perfect in its place. A stone basin, sukubai, filled with water, a bamboo ladle resting across it. You stop, purify hands and mouth. The water cold clear the act symbolic physical and spiritual cleansing before entering sacred space. The tea house itself, tiny low door, forcing you to bow entering on knees humility, enforced by architecture inside sparse. A few tatami and alcove with hanging scroll, a flower arrangement, nothing more. The ceremony begins host and guests silent or quietly conversing tea. Prepared each gesture, prescribed not random, not casual, but following forms, refined over centuries. The meaning not in the tea, but in the perfection of action. The presence, the attention, the respect flowing from host to guest to host all to each other. This is the samurai aesthetic beauty, found not in excess, but in restraint, not in decoration, but in essentialism, not in permanence, but in acknowledgement of impermanence. The cherry blossoms blooming for days, only then falling their beauty, inseparable from their brevity. We love them because they fall, because they don't last, because they remind us we don't last. This awareness, this mono, no aware, the poignant awareness of transience. This is at the heart of Japanese aesthetics, and at the heart of samurai philosophy. Life is short, beauty is fleeting, death comes to all, therefore pay attention. Be present, appreciate this moment, this blossom, this cup of tea, this breath. Tomorrow gone, so live fully now, not carelessly, but consciously aware, awake, alive. The stories we tell ourselves, history and legend. The samurai, are they history or myth? Both, they were real men and women who lived, fought, loved, died, left records, documents, swords, armor, graves. But they are also legend, their stories told and retold, embellished, transformed, until history and myth become inseparable. Consider Miyamoto Musashi, real person. 1584, died 1645, fought in his first duel age 13, killed his opponent, fought over 60 duels, killed every opponent, never lost. He was a Ronin, masterless, wandering, perfecting his technique, developing his distinctive two-sword style, writing the Book of Five Rings, a treatise on strategy, combat, and Zen principles applied to warfare. The facts are documented, but the legend makes him more than human, a figure of mythic proportion, the greatest swordsman who ever lived, the embodiment of martial perfection, the lone warrior walking the path to enlightenment through the sword. Is the legend true? Yes and no. The real Musashi was undoubtedly skilled, deadly. Perhaps he even achieved the spiritual insight. His writings suggest, but he was also human, flawed, sometimes dirty, sometimes afraid, sometimes wrong. The legend strips away the human messiness, leaves only the archetype, the ideal, and the ideal is what endures, what matters, what teaches us. Or consider Tomo Gozen, woman. Samurai fighting in the Genpei War. The historical record mentions her only briefly, but legend elaborates she was strong as any man, beautiful, skilled with bow and sword. She fought beside Minamoto. No Yoshinaka killed his enemies. When his army was destroyed, he ordered her to flee to survive. She refused, finally obeying, only when he insisted, riding off into history. Some say she became a nun, some say she married, some say she died in battle elsewhere. We don't know, but we tell her story because it expands possibility, shows that courage, loyalty, martial skill, these aren't only masculine virtues, that women too could be warriors, could embody the samurai ideal. Is her story true? Partly she existed, but the details. Embellished, uncertain, does it matter? Perhaps what matters is not factual accuracy, but emotional truth. The stories tell us who we wish to be, what we value, what we believe is worth striving for. The samurai stories, whether strictly true or not, express ideals, loyalty, courage, acceptance of death, beauty, intransience, perfection in action. These ideals resonate not just in Japan, but universally. Every culture has warrior stories, knights, Spartans, Vikings, Zulu Impis, each culture's warriors, embody that culture's particular values. For Japan, the samurai embody a specific combination: the warrior, who is also artist, the killer who writes poetry, the man who faces death calmly, who serves absolutely, who finds beauty in simplicity, who understands that life is short and therefore precious. As you rest now, drifting toward or deeper into sleep, these stories settle into your consciousness, not as facts to memorize, but as images, archetypes, possibilities. Perhaps you'll dream of them walking through mist, training in the dawn light, writing poetry with careful brush strokes, standing watch on castle walls, feeling the weight of duty, the certainty of purpose, the clarity that comes from accepting mortality. Or perhaps you won't dream of them at all. Perhaps they'll simply become part of the background, the vast tapestry of human experience that includes warriors and poets, tyrants and saints, all of us through all of history, trying to find meaning, trying to be good, trying to live well and die with dignity. Rest now, let the samurai fade, let the stories blur, let sleep come. The warrior sleeps, the sword rests. The garden endures, the temple bell sounds once more and fades to silence. And so our journey ends. 3 hours, 300 years, 3,000 stories, all settling now into memory, into dreams, into sleep. The samurai, who were they really? They were human like us, living in a different time, different circumstances, but asking the same questions. How do we live with meaning? How do we face death? What do we owe each other? What is worth sacrificing for? They answered with their code Bushido, with their training, with their service, with their willingness to die, but also with their poetry, their gardens, their tea ceremonies, their moments of beauty, carved from violence, created despite death. Were they perfect? No, they were cruel, sometimes cowardly, often hypocritical. They built a society based on hierarchy, oppression, violence. They killed, conquered, dominated. But they also strove, tried to be better, created a code that demanded more than mere survival, more than self-interest. They sought perfection, knowing it was impossible, but seeking it anyway. And in that seeking, they left us something. Not the violence, not the hierarchy, but the idea, the possibility that we can live by principles, that we can face difficulty with courage, that we can find beauty, even in darkness, that we can accept death, and in accepting become free. The samurai are gone, their world is gone, the castles stand empty, the dojo echo with silence. The swords are museum pieces, the code is history. But something remains in the Japanese psyche, in global culture, in the stories we tell, in the arts we practice, in the ideals we sometimes, rarely perhaps, but sometimes manage to embody. Loyalty, not blind, but chosen, conscious duty. Not oppressive, but connecting, service, not slavery, but purpose, courage, not recklessness, but resolve, acceptance, not resignation, but peace. These are human virtues, not just samurai virtues. We all can cultivate them in our own way, in our own time. The samurai teach us, not by being perfect, but by trying, by striving, by creating something beautiful from their brutal world, by facing the universal human condition, mortality, uncertainty, suffering, and responding with discipline, beauty, and a code that said, yes, life is short. Yes, we will die, but how we live matters, how we die matters, the moment matters. And so, as you sleep, or as you wake, carry this not as burden, but as gift, the awareness that this moment, this breath, this heartbeat is all we ever have, is all we ever need. The samurai knew this, lived this, died this, and in dying they show us how to live. Rest now deeply, peacefully, without regret, without fear, knowing that you too are part of this great chain of human beings across time, across culture, all seeking, all striving, all falling short, and all in our own way, in our own moment, doing the best we can. The temple bell sounds once, twice, three times and fades. The garden sleeps under stars, the stone unchanging, the water still. The sword rests in its stand, edge sharp, purpose, clear, waiting, patient, eternal. And you rest too, sleep deep, dream well, or don't dream at all. Simply rest, simply be, simply sleep. The samurai are gone, the story is told, the night deepens. And all is well, all is well, all shall be well.